Well, guys, winter doesn't seem to be going away, and we haven't got back to our build series yet for these new bikes that we have in the garage. But what we're done is this is our 2004 build series. So we did, the guys seem to be liking the compilations. So we put the compilation together so you guys can watch from start to finish, no pauses, one long video of the whole build series being done. Anyway, no sense waiting on me to keep talking. Let's get to it. Well, we did it again. We got another bike. A 2004 CR250. This one's rough. Got some problems. It's got some backyardigan things going on. Anyway, guys, I'll show you how we get started again. Jump out there, give this bike a good clean. This isn't the whole bike. I'm trying to use a microphone. I'll show you guys. Look at it. I got a little microphone. No, it's on, thank God. But anyway, I'm trying to use a microphone, and the microphone died on half the footage. So I'm gonna have to go back over a bunch of the stuff. Some of it's gonna be easier just to reshoot because I haven't tore it apart yet. But I tore half the bike apart without realizing. But anyway, let's take a look and see what I got. So this is what's going on with the rear brake. And I hope it's not stripped, but it probably is. You can see it's definitely not in properly. We'll find out. It's missing the hanger for the rear exhaust. The water pump's leaking. It started leaking on me when I took it for a ride. It's got a lot of spooge, just like most of them do, that aren't taken care of. Both rads look a little bent. It's got a little ding in the air box here. I don't know what's happened. Probably the pipe melted the air box. Getting down to the chain, you can see the chain and sprockets here. You can see that they're starting to hook, and that becomes a problem. So need sprockets. Not the end of the world. We usually do chain and sprockets on every bike. You know, maybe the guy used it as his hunting bike. I don't know. Bottom roller, it spins, it looks okay. Top one, she seized right up. I don't know. There's something. This screw, that's the wrong screw. He's put the wrong bolt in, so I hope it's probably stripped. But it has wedged the top roller. That's not right. Those bolts are supposed to be a certain length for a reason, so you don't do that. Got a Tusk shifter on it. The shifter's not wore, so he's replaced that recently. You always want to check here, you know, to see if there's up and down play at the connection. If there is, that's from getting rode a lot. Now, obviously, it's not the stock shifter, so we don't know how much hours are on this thing. The top end's been redone. The bottom end's been redone. The kid had receipts, but we'll see. It fires up pretty good. RC valve is way out of adjustment. No low end power. All top end power. So another bike where the RC valve is adjusted wrong. All sorts of stuff going on with the carb. It's missing half the vent hoses. But the pipe's not horrible. Like, yeah, it's rusty. We can clean that up. May have to strip this pipe. We'll see. Got a couple dents, but no major dents, and not like the O2 we just had that was really beat up. Now somebody's decided to play half Ronnie Mac and cut this front fender down. It's pretty twisted, like all the plastics just kind of beat up. Again, needs a front tire. Now, front tires wear out, but I don't think I've ever seen one this bad. Like, it is beat up. She is, you know, road tires have more tread than that. Fork seals are leaking. I'll have to take a look at the fork seals. The rads are so bent over here that when you turn the front end, when I rode this bike and I thought it's going to need steering stem bearings because it kept wanting to pull straight. Well, it kept wanting to pull straight because it kept hitting on the rad things on both sides. So it really felt walky when I was riding it. Oh, another thing here. This is not the right bolt. This bolt is loose by hand, somewhat. I hope he didn't strip it, but he might have. We'll have to take a look. There's no play in the wheel bearings, so that's a good sign. They're solid. But yeah, that front end, I thought for sure that there was something wrong with the steering stem bearings. Let's take these out right now. Oh yeah, they're fine actually. They feel pretty good. Now we'll take them apart probably and grease them up, but these poor cradles were bent, the louvers were bent so bad that this bike, and the throttle cable, the clutch cable here, she's catching on the radiator because it's got it routed in the wrong spot. So that's probably why it felt, it's CNC. I'll show you. You can see that clutch cable from turning the bike. That's probably what it was. Wore right through on there and is catching on that. So it's causing a little bit of funny stuff going on when you're riding it. But that's an easy fix. The throttle cable as well. It's just seen better days. We got our simple green, guys. You know, I like this stuff. It's affordable and it works really good. So we're gonna soak the bike right down, getting it all over. Yeah, getting all up on top of that carburetor because carburetors are a pain to clean. We're gonna start trying to rip some of these plastics off this bike. Got the bucket of used parts. So every time we rip a part off, we try and keep them together in the bucket. In case there's a washer or something we need later on in the build, it's just good to have. All the bolts usually go in another bucket. I'll have to grab one. Oh man, that was way too long to be in there. Well, she's got an air filter. It's actually not that dirty. I'm really surprised. So I've never had this happen before to me, when I'm really surprised. It probably should have. The guy, let me get the other piece. Let me show you. All right. So here is your intake flange. Okay. You see that hump? There's a hump there. Now your carburetor needs to sit all the way in, not just to the hump. So what the guys ended up doing was they thought they had their carburetor in. It wasn't. It was only up to the hump. And then they tightened down the clamp. I didn't notice it. Now I washed this bike for like 2 hours. You know, I'm only showing you guys a little bit of the footage, but I scrubbed this bike. And I pressure washed and pressure washed. You know, the reed cage is in here, but I pressure washed all this to get rid of 20 years of gunk that nobody cleaned off. And then when I took the subframe off, the carburetor fell out. And I was like, uh-oh. You guys won't be able to hear the audio because I screwed that up too. And I realized by looking in that there was water sitting on, like very little bit of water. We're not talking like a lot of water, but there was moisture. Okay, let's call it moisture sitting on top of the reed cage. So I said, okay, what do I got to do? And called a couple guys, let me show you guys. I called a couple different people, said, hey, this is what has happened to me. There's water on top of the reed cage. And this motor, she's been all redone. Like this, the bottom end's brand new, the top end's brand new, the inside's been done. So I said, what do you do? And you know, some guy said, well, I'd maybe squirt some WD-40 in there. And I said, look, I was thinking of just putting some extra gas down in, because let's face it, that's how you lubricate the bearings. I'm not afraid that it's full of water. What I'm afraid of is that moisture got in, and I don't want those bearings rusting. And I don't want to split this motor because it's brand new. So anyway, we poured some excess mixed fuel. Now I'm not talking about straight, we're talking pre-mixed, 40-to-1. We dumped some down in, and we let her slosh around a bit, and we continued on. Now we covered it up with a rag, keep dirt and stuff from getting in. But that's what happened during all that footage that I shot. Now the rear shock as well, it was loose. So you can see, not here, sorry, down here. You can see that bearing shot. So we need to get new bearings for the suspension, the rear shock. So we've ordered them, top and bottom bearing. But that's where we're at on this bike. That's basically what you guys missed. So I'm curious to see what's going on here. I haven't taken it off yet. I wanted you guys to see it. Let's hope that it's just loose and not stripped. Let's take it out and see what's going on. Let's see what we got here. Oh no. Oh no. That's good. It's not stripped. They just didn't know it had to be all the way in? I don't know. Probably. The guys I got this from, let's face it, they didn't really know. Well, that's okay. They didn't strip it. I'm really surprised. It's bone dry, of course, like every other one. Oh, the seal's in wrong on this side. Somebody had this apart at one point. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the seal's in wrong. It needs to go the other way. It needs to be this way. Not that there's anything to seal in there. They got no grease in it. But that's the way it needs to be. This one's right. That one's not. Well, 50-50, I guess. Because we've got to get these clamps out of the way. Get these radiators off so we can try and fix them. Because they have seen better days. Get this one down there. Well, nothing wrong with the hoses on this bike either. So we're going to clean them up real good. Make them look like new. Let's see what direction it is. You think it's going to be right or wrong? It's the right way. Well, we got quite a bit done in the first video. You know, we got the bike pretty much stripped down. Next video, probably going to be stripping off the swing arm, your rear brakes, rear tire, maybe get to the front end. We'll see. Maybe pull the motor. I don't really know, but we're going to keep going with this build. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Well, guys, we're back in the garage. We're going to try and get the back end off this 04 CR250. And if we have more time than that, we'll try and get the motor out. Anyway, let's take a look and see how far we can get. We'll start by getting rid of the rear tire here, loosening up our axle. Holy smokes, I don't know what this guy has this adjusted at. Oh my Lord. I might need to put the impact on it. Holy smokes. So this rear axle nut, it's supposed to be 90 foot-pounds. Now, I don't know if this guy and his buddies just decided to tighten it up till they couldn't move it anymore, but I couldn't budge it with a ratchet. So we'll put the impact on it and see how it goes. Holy smoke. Well, at least it's off. So the axle's not seized in there, at least. The kid just had it tight. Now, sometimes what happens when you go to buy a bike is the pedal will feel a little spongy, so guys will go ahead and top up the brake fluid when their pads are wore down. Now, these pads aren't that wore down, but sometimes you may need to take the brake fluid, the rear cap off, and then spread your pads apart. But this one wasn't like that. If you guys have seen my other videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of when you take your axle out. This is the spacer from that side. This is the spacer from that side. I put it all back together the way I found it so that I know how it came off, so we can clean it up and put it back on the right way. Every bike is different spacers sometimes, but anyway, it's good to keep it together. We'll go ahead and get our rear master cylinder out of the way. Now, knowing how tight that axle was, I'm a little worried how tight this is going to be. Oh, no, it's no problem. He just liked to make sure his tire wasn't going to fall off, I guess. Now we're going to drive it out from the other side. I don't know how hard it is in there. Sometimes they seize in pretty good. Now, not everybody's going to have a piece of aluminum, but this is just a piece of a solid aluminum bar. Don't put a punch in it from the other side, because you'll end up driving your punch and your punch will get wedged in there, and it's almost worse to get that out than it is to try and just do it with a brass bar would be best. Aluminum one works fine too. That's why I have it. It gets a little mushed up, but you can file that off. But keeping it good and flat so you can drive it out without wrecking the threads. This one's not bad at all, actually. That's a good sign. They said they did the bottom end. So in order to get the motor, oh, it's still got grease on it and everything. Man, these guys actually did good work, like in the motor, it seems, and putting stuff back together. They just didn't know it all. They just didn't know the how-to, I guess, of everything. We'll just work her back and forth. Try and get it out of there. There we go. Perfect. So again, with the swing arm, we want to put the axle back in for now. I don't plan on, I plan on stripping the bike down more, and I'll forget which part went where, so which washer went where. We'll get the nut on there. And then at least it stays all together. Same, I'm going to leave the linkage in. On this piece here, I'm going to put the actual bolt back in it. In the linkage. We're going to have to take it apart after. But it went this way. Rollers. I don't want to lose the bearings out of there. They're all brand new, it looks like. That's a bonus. They're definitely redone. They feel brand new. Awesome. Guys, I just wanted to tell you about something you should have. If you're going to be pulling motors out of bikes, taking them apart, a motor stand. You know, I've always had one when I worked on cars. I never had one when I worked on bikes until recently. And recently, I mean, within the last few years, I bought one because it was a pricey item up here. You know, this is the only one I could find, and it was a few $100s. And I thought that's ridiculous for a stand, but it has saved me time and time again, from catching things in the tray to just being able to position the motor in all sorts of directions. Honestly, I wouldn't go without it now that I've had one. So it's something to look into. It's not a must-have, but it's definitely a quality of life feature. Probably the number 2 quality of life feature in my shop. Number 1 would be the motorcycle lift, being able to get the bike off the ground. Bending over, I'm not 20 anymore. You know, I don't want to bend over and work on my knees all day. But anyway, number 2 product, if you got the room, if you have some disposable money, save your money, get a motor stand. This is why it's important to take these things apart, guys. I went and touched this, and it is so loose, it's barely on there. Whoever installed it, there's a certain amount of tension you want to put on so that it doesn't, but finger tight like that is not it. You should have to take it off with a special wrench. So as I was moving the camera, I barely touched it and pushed these bearings right off. They're actually not very good at all. I'll get the front end off and then we'll take a look at these. So sometimes you can get away with simply packing grease into them because they probably have never been taken apart by the previous owner. But in this case, you can see this bottom one. You can see how bad the bottom one is. It still spins. It's not overly hard, but there's not one piece of wet grease left in this. It is bone dry. So we're gonna have to get this bearing off, get a bearing kit for this bike. Yeah, the top one's no better. This sucker's bone dry. There's a little bit of grease on the front there, but we're gonna, there we go. I just couldn't get it out of the setup. loosen off the other bolts here so we can break the forks free of the triple clamp. In order to get the foot peg mounts off, you need to take the foot peg out to get at the bolt. The whole shop is littered with parts. Front end parts over there. I got the whole bucket of everything and anything. You know, rear suspension, swing arm, brakes. The frame's still up on the stand so I can start working on it. The motor's sitting in the cradle. The whole bike's tore apart. Getting the bike tore down this far is a huge benefit. We get to see all the parts, what kind of shape they're in. We get to know exactly what kind of product we're gonna need to order. Obviously, now we know we need steering stem bearings. You guys saw it come apart and they're rough. I didn't think they were, but they're twice as bad as I thought. When I rode the bike, it felt a little wonky, and then seeing it on the cleanup, the clutch cable and a whole bunch of compounding problems, I thought, oh, maybe that's it, because they did move. Now, I think they moved because it was loose. Maybe he loosened them off because they were getting seized up. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're gonna replace them. We're gonna get some wheel bearings for this bike. They're good, and I know I sell the bikes, but they're good enough to keep riding on, but they're not good enough for me. So we're gonna change them while we got it apart. Anyway, leave a comment down below, guys, if you like the video. Let me know you subscribe, and thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. In this one, guys, we're gonna try and get through all the parts, get finished on the scrub up, get the stuff polished up so where we can start reinstalling it back on the bike. So stick with me and we'll see how far we get. So we're gonna start by rinsing it off and really scrubbing it in and trying to get rid of all this grime that gets stuck up in here and get it off of the bike. All right, when it comes to these frames, they are a ton of work to get cleaned up, but it really pays off in the end. So I'm just soaking it down with the purple stuff here, some simple green. We're gonna soak down all the heavy spots so we can really get at it and scrub it up. We got an assortment of things here, man. We got wire brushes, some toothbrushes, some Scotch-Brite pads, you know, little scrubber things. We're gonna really try and get into these spots, get them all cleaned out. They don't really come off too bad, but it's just a time-consuming process. So what we've got here, guys, is a bucket of Dawn dish soap. So a bucket of Dawn dish soap and some water. It really cuts through the grease. It's probably the cheapest thing you can get. And I just use this little scrubber thing I picked up at one of the dollar stores. So we'll just give her a good scrub. If the Dawn dish soap doesn't cut through it, we put some more of the simple green on there. Get this thing looking brand new. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion. Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you. It's stupid. Well, guys, we got 90% of everything cleaned up. So now it's just a matter of getting it inside and starting to polish. So we're back in the shop. We've got the frame all laid out. And what we're going to start with is I went and bought these cool little Scotch-Brite pads. And what these Scotch-Brite pads will allow you to do is get in all these little hard to get areas. So we're gonna go over that. I'll leave a link to these suckers in the description. They're just cheap ones off Amazon, but they really seem to work, you know? Anyway, we're gonna go over and start getting at all the other little spots and getting the grime out of areas. And then we'll show you guys how to get that brush look. These little tools, they work really good at getting in here. So we'll show you guys. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to use this AutoSol metal polish. Now, this stuff will make this chrome. Like, it will look like chrome if you really polish it. But we're going to use a Scotch-Brite pad and a little bit, like I'm talking dabs of this stuff, to get that brushed look into the frame. I'll show you what I mean. So I got an open tube, and I'm just going to put a few dabs along the frame. And we'll take our very fine Scotch-Brite pad. We're just going to stay consistent with our brush strokes, up and down, all the way up, all the way down. You may need to do it a few times. A little bit more. What this is doing is it's making it consistent. So it's allowing all the scratches and stuff that are in your frame to look like they're one direction by buffing it out. And the key is not to do circles, but to simply go up and down. And it takes some time, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So if you guys didn't want the brush to look with the Scotch-Brite pad, just get some ultra fine, like the most finest steel wool you can get, and just buff it with the steel wool, and eventually, or like a toothbrush, and it will buff right up to chrome. But the problem with having a chrome one, I've done them before, is that when you ride them, if you're gonna ride them, your legs and stuff are gonna scratch, and you're gonna scratch that chrome look. Hopefully you guys can see the difference here. Let me zoom out a little bit. The difference in what this has accomplished. But definitely the frame looks a million times better than it did. You know, it's gonna look really good once it comes together. There's a lot of stuff that still has to happen with the install, so we'll be wiping this thing up the whole time, but it is the easiest point to polish it when everything's out of the frame. So we're going to do the exact same thing to the subframe. All right, when we're dealing with the swing arm, one of the big things is going to be getting the old chain tighteners out and taking off these plates. Let me show you what I mean. These impact drivers are a must-have tool when you're working on dirt bikes. They come with the 4 different sizes, some hollow ground bits, and a perfectly fitted bit. Like when these go in, they are tight. And we're gonna place it in the screw hole. We're gonna try and turn it by hand. Oh, it's actually loose. We got lucky. But they're a perfectly fitted bit. So if you don't have the Japanese cut tools, these impact drivers are a perfect fit. If you have one, you can use it. But sometimes these are seized and you need to hit them. Hit this with a hammer. And then it impacts it. So we're gonna basically do the same process. Get our Scotch-Brite pad, some AutoSol, try and clean all this up. If there's any major burrs down here, we're gonna take them off. We're going to use our Dremel, but we've actually switched to a little wire brush. So we're going to turn it on and try and get down in here. I'll leave a link below for these wire brushes. But they work really, really good. While we have our swing arm off the bike, what we're going to do is push these bearing spacers, the spacers out, and we're going to repack the grease for these bearings. There's nothing wrong with these bearings. They're like brand new. I don't want to stick my grubby hands in there, but we're going to repack some more grease in there. They're an open bearing. They're not a sealed bearing, and they have a seal on them. The seals are still good, so we'll get some grease down in there and keep going. So I've been using this maximum waterproof grease. Seems to work pretty good. I'm just going to get a bunch on this rubber glove and then jam it into the bearings. We'll re-lubricate this shaft, reinstall it. Grease on that, reinstall it, and we're done. It's that simple. Do the other side, same thing. It's just a matter of cleaning up the excess grease, which there's probably going to be a pile of it after we got done cleaning our swing arm. We'll just reinstall our axle to keep everything together until we install it in the bike. Perfect. So we've got all the major frame components polished up. You guys got to see how I kind of do the brush aluminum effect using the auto sol and Scotch-Brite pads. Those little tools I was using, the stuff I got from Amazon, they actually worked really good. So I'm going to keep using those. But anyway, guys, if you like the progress of the videos, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. And thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. So cleaning motors is never my favorite part of the build. They get a lot of spooge and all sorts of stuff because the bikes I buy, let's face it, these aren't top pristine bikes. This motor is a good motor. It's got a brand new top end and a brand new bottom end. So I don't want to tear it apart and then vapor blast this bike. There's no point. I don't want to have to buy a new bottom end or seals or anything like that. So we have to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to try and soak it down and scrub off most of the grime and gunk. It's a lot of hand tools and stuff like that. So you guys can see we've got a lot of work ahead of us. It's just, there's spooge and stuff caked on. There was never an exhaust gasket, so this bike just leaked out everywhere. So up here in Canada, I'd buy these things at Canadian Tire. And they're like, you get like a 2-pack for $5 or $6. It's not a very good deal. But I ended up finding a link on Amazon. And I think I got 120 brushes for $20. Maybe it was 30. I don't remember. And I also bought these. So these little Scotch-Brite pad brushers things, and they all fit in this cheap die grinder, or Dremel, sorry. So if you have a Dremel or a cheap one, and it really speeds up the process. So I'll leave links down below in case you guys want this stuff, because I know how expensive these can be, and it really helps when you're doing the motors. So we got the simple green, and we're just gonna go gently on. I mean, we don't want to get any down inside the cylinder. But we just want to soak it down, let it start doing its work. Get it all over the whole thing. We'll just go around the whole motor. So now that we got the motor all cleaned up, what we're gonna do is tear this water pump off so we can see what's going on in there. Now it started leaking out of the gasket, I think, but we'll take a look. We've got a gasket kit. If it needs a rebuild, we'll rebuild it, but we gotta get the cover off first. So if you guys see my other videos, you'll know that I like to do this. I like to basically draw it. There's 5 in this one. And that way we can put the bolts in this pattern so we know which one goes where in case they're different lengths. And it's just that simple, guys. That way the links stay where they need to be. We don't lose track. Cannot get this sucker off. Like, I know there's guide pins, but it's stuck on them, that's for sure. There we go. Finally. All right, guys. When you get your covers off your water pump, there's some leftover gasket material left on here and little blemishes and whatnot. So what we're gonna do is use some 600 grit sandpaper. This is wet dry sandpaper. You can use it wet or dry. I like to keep some in the shop all the time. But we're gonna put it on actually a paint stir stick is what I got to put it on. I don't want to put it on a file in case the file rips it, but I keep some of these around. Any kind of flat block will work. We're just gonna wrap it around so it's got a good flat area to work on. We're just gonna work it back and forth to sand all the blemishes out. So this will just take me a minute. One important thing is we don't want to just keep going in the same spot. We don't want to actually like work this round or anything, because that's what will cause a leak. We want this to be smooth and consistent. Some of the areas are going to be hard to do, so just take your time. Any gasket surface needs to be resurfaced, but as long as there's no big gouges going right in, this one's pretty good. We have some gouges down here, and you can see they almost go all the way through, but there's still enough surface there that it will still take the gasket. So we're gonna just make sure we surface this off really good, get rid of this gasket material here, and get it all cleaned up. I'm gonna use the edge here to get it on that side. Yeah, that's perfect actually. So this is the divider plate between the outer case cover, like the outer water pump cover, sorry, and the case itself. And I'm just using this knife to try and show you the issues here. See these little divots? And this is where the gasket would have went around that. Well, those little divots are high, and that's because somebody's bent the opposite side, like they've dinged it up pretty good here. So we need to get that flat because that's where it's leaking. So what I'm going to actually use is a really fine file and try and file the high spots out a little bit. So I've just got this block of wood to help me hold it flat. And I see there's a couple high spots there. So I'm just going to go on here with the file, and then I'll go over it with the 600 grit to see. Now the block of wood is not that flat. It's just to help me have a guide here. And I'm just pressing the file into it. Yeah, that's a lot better already. We don't want to wear it down. Like, we don't want to wear down this material too much. I'm sure it's a certain thickness for a reason, but we've got them all over because this thing's beat up. Now you think that when you crush it down with the bolts, it's gonna flatten out, but I think what was happening is this one's got a really good gouge down here at the bottom. Somebody's been beating it, and that's where it was leaking. So we're gonna get this straightened up. You can see that it's taken the high spots right out of there, and that's what we want. We're just gonna do the same sandpaper technique, if you want to call it that, to clean up this the external cover. We'll just take the compressed air, blow out the part, make sure there's no any of the sandings left in it. Same with our other cover. And with we can see some bigger stuff sitting there. I don't want to blow anything down in the motor. If it was up here, I wouldn't care. But since it's there, I'm going to wipe it up with a paper towel. Just a little chunk right there. That's it. Perfect. So now we'll blow the rest out. When it comes to reinstalling the gaskets, what I like to do is, this is just a brush with the grease that I use for everything, the maximum waterproof grease. And I just put a really light coat, like not even a coat, just on spots, especially around the pins. A little bit on the pins. I don't want grease down in here or on the water pump, like it's not gonna mix good. But just enough to help me hold. I'll show you guys. We've got barely any grease, and just around the outside edges. And what that's going to allow us to do is it's going to help us hold the new gasket. The guide pins obviously help, but just help hold the gasket down on the surface. Then I'll put this one on. Sorry, it's this way. And I'll do the same thing, just a little bit up there around the guide pins. Because when I go to flip this over, I don't want the gaskets falling off. So just basically on the outside of the holes is what I like to do. I've never had any problems with it. So when I do it, I guess if it caused the problem, I'd stop. But there's two gaskets for the water pump, one on there, then the spacer plate, then your other gasket. And we didn't take our water pump apart, so it's still tight. And then the guide pins go in. And just push it down till those guides seat. You have to tap it, you could, but it should go. Now, because of our handy little water pump diagram, we know where the bolts go. We'll just set them all in the holes. A really short one over here. Well, guys, we've been having a little more than just a little bit of audio issues lately. I bought this new microphone. This stupid little thing decides to shut off sometimes. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to get one that beeps or something. I gotta look into it. But anyway, what I was talking about while I was tightening the bolts was it's 7 foot-pounds, and we need to torque them in like a star pattern, normal pattern. If you have a Honda Rebuild or a repair manual or anything like that, it'll explain the same thing. But anyway, guys, the motor's done, the water pump's in, the motor looks great, a million times better than it did. So all that's really left to do is put it in the bike. Now, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Like and subscribe the videos. The amount of subscribers and support that I'm getting it's really good. So you know, keep that up. And I'll keep making videos. But thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys in the next one. In this video, guys, we're dealing with the steering stem bearings. We got to get these ones replaced in our 2004 CR250. They came out pretty beat up. They're just dry and been abused. So let's get to it and see how far we get. So the biggest part for me when it comes to trying to get this stuff apart is trying to get these off. Now, I've seen guys cut them. I've seen them do all sorts of stuff. I like to soak them down the day before with this PB blaster. This stuff, I don't know if you can get it in the States. We just buy it here at Princess Auto, which is like Harbor Freight. And the stuff just works. So we just soak it in. It bubbles and it's gonna get in there and eat any dirt and crud away. Lots down in there, so it goes down through the bottom one. And then we're gonna let it sit overnight. This stuff actually acts pretty quick, but we're gonna let it sit overnight because it's getting late. And pull her out tomorrow for you. So guys, what we're gonna do here is we've got it up on a block. So when we hit this with a chisel or a punch, I'm not sure how it's gonna come out yet. We don't drive it clean into the cement. We don't wanna break any of the aluminum or anything like that. We want to have it elevated so it can come out of there. So you guys can see down in there that it extends past, so you can get a hold of it with the punch. And we soaked it pretty good, so we'll see if it comes out. Right out of there, no problem. So traditionally, these can be a giant pain in the butt. But by letting them soak overnight with a little bit of penetrating oil on there, that stuff really gets underneath and breaks free. Because the difference in metal from aluminum to carbon or stainless or whatever this is harder metal. Becomes an interference. It's a difference in metals. It'll oxidize and wedge itself right in. We'll flip it over. Still some moisture inside the frame from us doing all the washing. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna drive it out. Then we're gonna go through and clean up all this this area here. All right, so I always keep a little pail of just some cut off 2x6s, 2x4s, just to have around. It's good to have some blocking. So, you know, every guy or girl, I guess, should have some blocking lay around in their shop. That's for my 2% female viewership. Hey, we're gonna drive out the upper one now. Just working our way around both sides. There, she's gone out. Perfect. So now we're onto the triple tree, and we got to get this bearing off. This is obviously the bottom. That's the top where the handlebars go. I've got it upside down on this blocking to help me support it while I try and chip away and get that to drive down. It's driven on. You drive it on with another special tool. This is just a normal chisel. I'm gonna support it with my knee. Shouldn't be that hard with that spray, but it might be. You don't want to cut up, scar this up real bad. If we do nick it, we can buff it. But what we really want to do is get underneath. She's still stuck on there pretty good. We're going to soak it up with a little more penetrating oil. So I hope you guys can see this. We're starting to get a little bit of a gap here between here and the bearing. So we're going to, I'm running out of penetrant here. That's not good. Have to get stocked back up. We're going to soak it up in there, soak the top, let her sit here for a second, and hopefully dig on in there so we can get this stupid thing off. So, all right, now's our chance, I think. Let's see. I'm gonna have to stand on it, guys. He is moving. There we go. Finally. Oh. Perfect. So basically what we have to do now, guys, we got the simple green. If you had a parts washer, like a tank of mineral spirits or Varsol or whatever. You could soak this in and get her scrubbed up real good. I don't have one here in this garage, so we make do with the simple green. So our bearing kit comes with the top and bottom bearing. They're the same bearing for this bike. We're gonna open up the kit. The bearing is wrapped separately. Now there's no grease in this bearing. We're gonna have to grease it, but we're gonna have to press these in. So we're gonna use our Maximus grease. So low friction, high temperature, all sorts of stuff. But if you read the back, the key here is gonna be the extreme, sorry, maybe you guys can see it. The extreme pressure grease. So this is what we want for these bearings. And as far as the grease goes, we're gonna put a lot of grease because this is the only time it's gonna get grease. We're gonna put grease on the inside, on the outside of it, everywhere here. Like a lot of grease. On the top one goes with the collar tapered for the bearing to go in, obviously, and the bottom one does the same. All right, so we're back on the floor using a block of wood to help us here. We've got a kit. This is a Tusk kit. So this kit comes with all sorts of stuff. This is the driving part. We're gonna install it, get it roughly seated. Almost seated all the way. Just a little low on this side, a little high on the other, so. You hear the change when you bottom out. That's all the way in. So I've got this bearing press kit from Tusk, and how it works is you slide it up in. Sometimes you really need them, and sometimes you don't. I don't think we need it for the top, but since we have it, we might as well use it. You spin this sucker on, the thing always goes to the top. Then it presses it in, if I can hold the frame still. Normally guys got the rest of their bike together. Yeah, it's pushing equal, it's equal there. So what I'm checking is on the bottom here, I want to make sure it's flush and there's no difference in gap, and on the top that it's flush and there's no gap change either, so everything's straight. And then simply keep pushing it till it's all the way in. Ours is all the way in up top. I can check it with my hand or a pick, but just wanted to show you guys how this is used. And you flip it, but leave this at the top, but flip your press part for the bottom. So I've got a flashlight here to try and show you guys better. The lip here is consistent all the way around the top. So we have a good lip there. And under here, there's no lip. The race is seated all the way down. So that's really good. So here's the lip on the bottom I was talking about. You can clearly see there's a big lip for this race to catch on. So when the race goes down in this direction, with the flat side down and the taper side up, so that when the bearing goes in, it has somewhere to rest and press into. The same process, we're gonna put a pile of grease in here. I've got a big wad on my hand. And I want to get it all up in there. And, oh, there's going to be extra grease inside the tube. That's fine. Your seals, keep it good. Everything's good. We're going to put lots of grease on our thing going in. One side here. And you hear that change. But she's seated all the way down. Yeah, right tight. So now we're going to install our bearing on our lower here. First things first, we need to get a seal on there, guys. I put it on right away. so we don't get into a hurry trying to pound on the bearing and then realize, oh no, we forgot the seal. So the seal on the bottom goes up so it's like a bowl. Makes sense? So I'm by no means a pro at getting the grease in the bearing. It was kind of a thing that happened before my time. So, but obviously these bearings need it. So we're gonna take some grease and put it in our hand, like the palm of our hand. And then we're gonna just push it in. And scooping it. And yeah, we're getting a bunch of grease on there, but we gotta scoop it into the bearing, into all the wheels. You press it in. Oh, here, I'm trying to show you guys. I'm taking it and I'm pushing it in, cupping it in. There's an opening on the back. We might as well push it in that way. Like I said, I'm not a pro at this. My dad will be watching this video. He'll be laughing at me. I'm going, what the hell? Look at the mess you've made. But you know what? Our bearing's going to be full of grease. So this is probably the most important part of installing the bearings onto the shaft, is where do you hit the bearing? So you get yourself a tool or a pipe, and you don't hit this outside part, you need to hit the inside. That's the strong part. You hit this outside, you wreck your bearing. So Tusk makes this cool little kit. This one here slides completely over the shaft, goes down, and only touches, because it's tapered, just like this green one, has a different size going down. So the red one's the one we need. And then the pipe goes on top, slides inside, and then you hit the pipe and you drive your bearing home. So doing a steering stem, you know, you gotta buy tools. For me, these tools I needed because I do a bunch of bikes. But it might be more affordable for you guys to get it done by a local shop. I don't know. So it's really not a hard job to do. And there, we're just driving it. You hear it, it's hitting bottom. Just gonna check it. So you can see there's no gap between the bottom of the triple clear tree here and the bearing. Well, the seal goes on and then the bearing, but there's no space. So it's driven all the way down. The bearing spins freely, other than it's greasy. But yeah, that's all there is to put that bottom bearing on. And we're just putting the grease on thick because we're not going to get another chance to do this. I'm going to drop that in there. That's it. We're going to put our top bearing in. We've got our seal out of the package, ready to go. Oh, bearing's been greased already. Got it laying on the package. Of course, the package is covered in grease. We're going to get a lot more grease. Like I said, you want to lay it on thick. We want it all up in there. This bearing's already been greased. We're going to slide it on. Now the seal. The seal goes down this time instead of up. The bowl keeping the grease in. Don't mind my horrible mess here. Now our next part is the collar. We're gonna have to adjust that collar. We have a special wrench for it. I don't know how much you guys can see. Am I blocking the damn footage? No, probably. Then there's a washer, and then the last nut. So what we have to do now, guys, is get at least one fork tube back in the bike. We don't care which way it's pointing. We don't care too much about any of that. All we really care about is that it helps us line up the top and bottom. So you can see I've got it in the tubes there. It's a little tight. quarter turn. Falls over pretty good. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without having the bike fully back together, because I'm supposed to torque this nut to 80. Now, I've got my torque wrench set to 80, but I don't know if my ratchet strap set up that's holding this frame to the will allow me to do 80. We'll see. There we go. Yeah. Okay. They're good ratchet straps. Well, the steering stem bearings are done on the 04 CR here. Now, we used a few specialty tools. We drove the bearing on with a special bearing driving kit, but really all that kit is a properly sized pipe. So if you're just doing one and you can get a pipe and drive it on, that would probably be the way to go. It's handy having the tools, that's why I have them. And as far as using a press to press in the outer races of the bearings, you could use a threaded rod with 2 properly sized washers and you know, some nuts and crank them in, and that would do the job too, and seat them level. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Like and subscribe to videos. Leave me a comment, especially if there's something else that you guys do when you guys do your steering stem bearings, or you're wondering why I didn't do something a certain way. Leave that message down below. Let me know. But anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. In this video, guys, it's time to change the bearings for our rear suspension. We're going to do just the shock bearing. The linkage bearings are good. The lower shock bearing and the upper shock bearing. I'll show you how to do it. All right, so first things first, guys. I'll show you. We've got a seal, and then you got the inner bearing, like the shaft, and then there's the bearing itself. So these ones are pretty wonky, you can see, and the whole shock was twisting around. So what we're gonna do is take our little pick, pop out the seal. Then there's a steel inner. You can take a look on how it was placed. Make sure you note that it was in that orientation. There they go. You can see how bad the bearing is. It's already falling apart. Perfect. The rest of it just fell out. I just wanted to let you guys know that there's different ways to buy these bearings. If you're going to do the linkage, which is this bearing, and this bearing, and you buy a linkage bearing kit, usually the kit will come with the lower bearing for the shock. It won't come with the upper, so you'd have to buy just an upper. But that way, if you're redoing all of it, you don't buy a linkage kit, an upper bearing, and a lower bearing, and just have an extra bearing sitting around that you don't need. I just wanted you guys to know that. Can't get my little pick in there. There we go. Just trying to get that dust seal out of the way. Why is this being so stubborn? I feel like I'm going to slip and stab this pick right in my hand. I should be able to just get underneath it and pop it out like the other 3 did. Try a different technique here, a little screwdriver maybe. There we go. Guess the pick just couldn't do it. So what the trick is to getting this stuck bearing out is you can buy a fancy kit from Motion Pro, but it's ridiculously expensive. So we found a socket that just fits on that race, and there's still a little bit of play so the socket won't get wedged in. Then we find a socket that's bigger, I'll show you, that can cover the outside that the bearing can push into. I'll show you with the vise. Simply push it into our vise. The middle is better than using the edge of your vise. And just carefully, there she goes. Pushing it out. She's out. Take our socket out. Now it's just a matter of cleaning that up. We're gonna grease these today too. So our lower bearing kit's got a bearing. The inner race, the two seals, and the two outer pieces that hold it all together. So before we install the bearing, we always have a brush in a Ziploc bag that we dip in our grease. And I'd rather than throw it out every time, I put it in the Ziploc bag. So it's got grease on it. I'm just gonna put some grease on the inside to help it seat. Like to slide in. Get our bearing out of the package. Man, these package them up. It's got some grease in it and all the pins are in there. You want to check. You want to check, guys. Make sure your bearing's good and you're not missing a pin. I've seen it before. So we don't need to use our sockets right away. We might use the socket to help center it. But right now we can just get this vise a lot closer. Get our bearing sort of there. Keep it flat against the back side of the vise. And then push it in. If it's ridiculously tight, you probably want to stop, guys. There's probably something wrong. So you can see our bearing's halfway in. We're going to need to push farther, so we're going to use the socket again. But you don't need to buy every specialty tool out there. I do quite a few bikes and I don't have that specialty tool. Would I try it if I had access to it? Yeah, sure I would. Am I going to go out and spend $400 on basically a set of sockets that I can just push the parts in with? No, I'm not. But Motion Pro, if you want me to try one, feel free to send me one. I'd like to see how it works. If you guys don't have a set of Verniers calipers, it's probably a must-have tool. I use them quite a bit for checking stuff. You can check the diameter of things, and they're got to be 10 or 20 bucks. You can probably buy them on Amazon. I'm sure you can buy anything on Amazon, so I'm sure they're on there. 3.45. .5. Okay, good enough. I'm not adjusting microscopic millimeters here. So now all that's left, we're gonna put a little bit of grease in the bearing while it's open. Then we're gonna put the center in. Comes with the kit, obviously. I can't push the thing in by hand, and it should. So I'm gonna do basically the same thing I did, but I'm holding the bearing. I'm going to tap that inside piece in, but I'm holding the bearing with the small socket I used to push it in. Yeah, that's good. Oh, and it spins good. Huh, it's just tight. Well, we'll put a little more grease. Put our things on. And our seals. So while we have the linkage off the bike, we simply pop these caps out, pushed out the pin, and we're going to re-grease these bearings. There's a little bit of old grease left in there, that's good, but the bearings are good. They don't need new bearings, doesn't need a bearing and seal kit for the linkage, but if you're gonna go this far, you better grease it. But probably the most neglected part of maintenance of a bike is greasing the bearings and what needs to be done. That's all it needs, a little more grease. Linkage is done. All right, guys. So it's really hard to see in the video. I've got to try to get more lighting. This bearing, it's supposed to be like that. It's a ball bearing inside of a set piece. It's a one-piece unit when it goes in. But there is a small C-clip right there. You can see it. It goes all the way around. But it's the little gap right there where my pick is. That, we have to pull that out. And the bearing actually has to be installed from this side. Going in this way, coming out this way. Because this side's bigger than the other side, obviously. All right, so we managed to get the little C-clip out of there, or little circlip. So we found a socket that'll fit. It has to be pushed out the same side as the circlip came out of. And we'll simply, now that we've got it set up, we'll simply tighten it up and press that old bearing out into this other socket. Just like that. So you guys can see down in here, there's a lip. So the bearing obviously can't go out that way. It has to come out this way. So we greased up the inside and we greased up our bearing. We'll press it back in. We'll start it this way and then we'll go back to our sockets. There, she's down all the way. You can feel your vise get pretty tight. Now it's just a matter of installing our new clip that came with our bearing and seal. This clip's got a lot bigger space than the one that came out of it. So maybe it'll be easier to get out for the next guy. Well, we'll simply put our seals in. Anyway, guys, that's how you do the upper and lower shock bearing. So, pretty straightforward. Once you know what you're looking for. The biggest thing is some bikes don't have that little circlip that's like impossible to get out, and others do. So if you do have the circlip, take a really good look, maybe measure the hole. One will be bigger than the other, so it always has to push out of that way. You guys also got to see us re-grease all the linkage bearings and whatnot. So those bearings are pretty much brand new. This bike's really coming back together. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe on the videos. Leave a comment. Let me know how you guys do it, if you guys do something different. And we'll see you guys in the next one. In this video, guys, we got to do the tires on this 04 CR250. These tires are rough. I don't know how many hours are on these poor tires. Now this rear tire, like, she's seen a lot of road. When I went and looked at this bike, first thing I saw was there's not a stitch of rubber. I'm surprised it even holds air. You can see it's just smooth. So when it comes to tires, I'm traditionally a Dunlop guy. But when we bought this bike off the last guy, he had a brand new set of Pirellis. So I've never ran the Pirellis. It looks like a good tire. It's like a medium hard or medium soft tire, it seems. But yeah, this Pirelli Scorpion MX32. So we're gonna throw a set of these on the bike and see how they go. They're not a cheap tire, so hopefully they work good. So one of the important things about doing tires and making them easier on you, because they're horrible, every tire is. Some guys get really good at it. I'm not the best, but I've done my share. We got the valve stem pulled out, the core. We'll loosen the rim lock. Now when we're loosening this rim lock, we're not going to take it all the way off. We're just going to go right to the end of the threads. Some of the spokes are pretty loose in this tire. We're just going to go all the way out to the end of the threads. Same with the valve stem. What I like to do is I just use a little bit of Windex to help me break the bead. It's cheap. I always have it in my shop for just wiping stuff up. and hopefully it's going to sink down in. And we can break the bead off the rim. This tire is hard as a rock. Try and get our rim lock pushed in a bit. It's moving at least. Oh man. Oh. You have to shove your spoon under the tire like so, and then simply push down to try and break that bead off the rim. We need a couple in there. This one's been on a while. I can hear it letting go. Flip it over, do the other side. So we just jam our spoon under there. And the biggest thing is trying to get this tire into this space. The rim is shaped so it has a hump in the middle. You want to get the bead of the tire down into that hump so it allows it to roll while you're trying to pull it over the edge. But this one is fighting me more than I've fought a tire in a while. Definitely not being a very friendly tire. Little bites. You can see. And this tire is just done. There we go. It's just so hard. It's old and hard. Oh. Keep taking little bites. I got the rim lock to deal with here. There. There. She's off on this side. Flip it over. When I flip it, I like to start at the rim lock because this side I can get down into the other side pretty easy. The tire's off, sort of. Now, what we like to do, simply push on the one side towards the valve stems over here. Because we're going to push the whole thing right off of the bike, the rim. It froze here last night. I guess I should have brought these tires into a warmer spot. Because normally they just push right off. There we go. But it is being a pain. And we'll do the same thing to the front. Like to have 3 spoons. And these Motion Pro spoons, guys, I used to do tires without them, but these Motion Pro spoons were a game changer for me. They, they're nice and rounded. I'll show you guys after what tools I use. But they work really, really good. Go to this side. We'll simply push the tire down. This is how they're supposed to work, guys. Nice and easy. That's it. So what we've got here, guys, is just Gorilla Tape. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to create one of those rubber bands by placing it in here. We'll have to trim it, of course, because we can't let it overhang onto here. That is where the bead needs to sit. So we'll trim it off, but we're basically going to seal where all the spokes are, so that way the spokes don't poke the tube. That's basically what that's for. So what we've got is just a cheap razor blade. We're just gonna razor blade knife, and we're just gonna keep going around, cutting just on that edge. We simply peel it off. There we go. We'll do that to the top and bottom. Just got some no-name cornstarch baby powder. We put a bunch in the tire, and then we just roll it around. Get the tire good and coated so that the tube doesn't stick to the tire like we were trying to show you. I just wanted you guys to see what happens. So this here, that's rubber that's fallen off, that's part of the inside of the tire. And what prevents that is baby powder. You can see there's all kind of dirt stuff stuck in this tire compared to the tube, but you'll rip your tube if it glues itself to your tire. So you need to put baby powder into the inside of your tires. When this one didn't have it, it stuck right in. We'll just set our tire on top. And on this tire, there's no dot. Normally, on a brand new tire, and I've read it both sides, and I don't see anywhere, but normally there's a little yellow dot. And that little yellow dot's where you're supposed to put your valve stem. This tire doesn't have one, so we're not going to worry about it. I don't think it makes a lot of difference anyway. And we'll get our tube jammed in, and what I like to do, you can see my tube isn't flat. It's got a little bit of air in it, so I put like barely enough air to even register. Like it doesn't register on a air pressure gauge. There's no pressure, but it just gives it a little bit of shape so that I'm not fighting with it when I'm trying to install it. So what we got here is our tire tube paste. You know, it's basically, I think, like an animal fat, but you just smear it on, and it really helps. Get it all over that bead. I used to not use it, and I'll never not use it again. Some sort of tire paste lube. The difference is remarkable. Trying to keep that valve stem lined up. Deal with our rim lock here. There's a little bead buddy thing. I have one. I don't like it. I don't like the way it works. I probably don't know how to use it right. What I'm dealing with here is the rim lock. Just getting it past the rim lock. I don't know if you guys can see it. There. So what I'll do is pull this side up, push my rim lock out. There, it's in. Flip it back over. Deal with the valve stem. We'll throw our washer on, and then get a couple threads on the valve stem. All we got to do is get the tire in that sweet spot. It's creeping up on us a bit, so we're just going to push it down a bit. Keep pushing it down in the sweet spot. And working our way across. Push it down here. Almost done. Trying to deal with this rim lock. Right there, past the rim lock. That's the hardest part. There we go. Tire's on. And now we'll basically just fill the tire up and set the bead. There's a ridiculous amount of air in it right now. But we're just double checking to see if the bead is set. Everything looks good. We're gonna go ahead and set the rim lock. Tighten it down. I've seen arguments both ways as to tightening your valve stem to the rim or tightening it to the cap. The pros tighten it to the cap, but they got a lot more money than me. I've always tightened it to the rim, never had a problem. $13. Perfect. Well, guys, it doesn't take us long to do a set of tires. Like I said, I don't really like doing them. I'm not that good at them. There's guys that are way faster at them than I am. The key with doing tires, though, is figuring out what works for you, having the right tools. Those Motion Pro spoons, man, when I first got them, they made a huge difference. Another thing that really helped me with setting the beads on tires is getting the proper lube. I used to use the Windex, putting them on and taking them off. Now I use the lube, putting them on. Huge difference on the ability to seat the beads. So much easier. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below and let me know what kind of tires do you guys like or experiences you've had with tires. Like I said, I like the Dunlop tires. But these Pirellis seem to be pretty good. They seem to go on pretty good. I don't know how well they hold up. Like I said, I've never ran them. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Well, guys, the weather's crap. It's been raining off and on all day. It's cold and chilly. I was going to try and go get some riding footage, but I don't think that's going to happen today. So instead, we're going to work on the exhaust for our 2004 CR250 build. We're going to try and get the rusty Pro Circuit pipe all polished up. We'll repack the silencer, and we'll show you guys how far we get. So our pipe is horribly rusty. It came off of the bike. There's a lot of rust. I'll show you here. We've got like a massive buildup here, but it's not bad. There's no holes. So what I like to do is soak these babies down with WD-40. Surprisingly enough. Soak it all down. Soak all the rust down. Let it sit for a bit. Let that WD-40 set in. And then we're going to take the Scotch-Brite pad and go over it. And just keep pushing and polishing until all that rust is gone. We may have to take a wire brush and get up in here and break some of the bigger stuff off. But, you know, while I do this, what I like to do is I'll set something on. I have a TV in the garage, so I'll either put YouTube on and watch old races or something like that. So the Scotch-Brite pad is working pretty good, but we grabbed the grinder to try and get up into here a little better. I can't get the full stroke with the Scotch-Brite pad. I don't like using the grinder in the garage. It makes a mess, but it's a rainy day and I want to go out. So now that we've got most of the major rust, we've still got a bunch more to get. But we're going to try and finish off the underside here. It looks pretty good, but I got some 220 sandpaper, so something a little more aggressive to try and get into these deeper areas. And just try and pull some of the big rust chunks out even further. So I think by now, a lot of guys have seen this system where it clamps on. They'll tell you your pressure. Right now, we've put about 35 PSI. We went to 40, but obviously it's leaking out a little bit, probably around the seals. On one side, there's a nipple, so you put your air to it, just like you would a tire. Watch your pressure gauge. I go to 40, and then start heating the dents, and then those dents will work themselves out. This kit's a pretty good kit. Now, it's not cheap, but you know, you can save a pipe, I guess. But by the time you buy the kit, or you take your pipe to get sandblasted, and then all of a sudden there's a crack and it needs welding, and you had to pay somebody to do that, all of a sudden you're cheaper just to buy another brand new pipe. So really consider that, guys, if you're gonna think you're gonna do a whole bunch of pipes. Because if a pipe's 300 bucks, who's gonna pay you 100 to fix it? I don't know. This pipe really has 3 decent dents in it. One here, obviously this one here, and then there's one on the other side over here. I just wanted to give a little safety tip. You know, I'm not real big on safety until it's really important. So I've got safety glasses on this thing because when you start heating this up, the weld seams might have a hairline crack, and the residue that's left in your 2-stroke pipe, that oil fuel mixture that gets in the pipe, when you start heating it up, that stuff is going to turn into like a nuclear hot tar. And you're heating away and all of a sudden it splits and starts spraying nuclear tar at your face. You're going to wish you had something. You don't want to get that in your eye. Last thing you want to do is lose your sight. The next thing, the big thing to be cautious with this is I wear gloves when I do this. I don't usually wear gloves. You guys will see it in my video. But there's certain times I wear gloves. It's really greasy, so I don't have to sit there and try and scrub my hands for hours. And with this, it's going to get hot. We're going to heat this with a torch. So just something to be aware of, guys. One big thing you want to keep an eye on while you're heating it is this pressure gauge. We do not want to go above 70. That's what the little booklet that came with this thing said. And well, I'm going to listen to it. We're going to deal with ripping this silencer apart. We'll drill out the rivets, pull the back end off, take it all apart. I'm sure if there is any packing in it, it's probably horrible. It's a little loose, so we'll tighten it all up when we put it back together, but it needs a good cleaning to get it up to our specs. Just work our way out. Ooh. Now we're gonna have to take the front off as well. And drive the rest of the rivet back into the thing, into the shell. Perfect. We've just got a bar inside because these are usually siliconed. We're just trying to catch the outside edge a little bit. We're trying not to bend it, obviously. I don't know if this one had silicone or not. It's just really tight. There we go. Yeah, she's just, this poor silencer needed to be repacked 10 years ago, probably. That's just a matter of trying to get the old packing out. It's all like stuck in there. But man, this packing, I don't know if somebody's ever redone it. I don't know. But she definitely needs to be. Look at this. And she's all shredded up and just garbage. What they wrapped it in a screen door? I'm not really sure what the hell is going on here. Hardcore. Maybe that's how Pro Circuit does it, but I doubt it. It's just a matter of cleaning up all the parts now, getting rid of all the old material that's stuck in the bottoms. Yeah, it's never been redone. This is probably new from Pro Circuit the way it comes. This pipe is supposed to be tacked on. We've got her all cleaned up. We're about ready to assemble, and then we'll do a final clean. I just buy these FMF two-stroke packing kits. It gains up to 2 horsepower when properly installed. I don't believe that, but maybe. So basically what we have to do is wrap this around nice and tight. It's definitely long because they don't know how, if it's for a 500, if it's for a 125, they don't know. So you just wrap it up really tight, keeping it tight on your pipe. And then we're going to use some painter's tape, or we'll see what we have. The tape isn't there. It's not the important part, is the tape. The important part is getting this wrapped on there. You know, and these ones, there's more expensive ones you can buy. Whether they work better or not, I don't know. The important thing is I like to buy the cheap ones so that I can do it more often. You guys can see it's not hard to do. Like, we're almost done. Like, if you can do it without using tape, go right ahead. I can't, so I use the painter's tape. We're not trying to stick it to the fiberglass. We're just trying to stick it to itself. And I put like 3 pieces on. This painter tape probably burns off the first ride. It's not crucial, like I said. And then just trying to keep it as tight as we can. Perfect. Just a matter of trimming our end. Now, end of our pipe is right there. So we'll go ahead and take a Sharpie. I like to leave a little extra so that I can shove it back into the fit up. And then we'll cut it off. I'm gonna try scissors. I don't know if I use scissors on this one or not. Yeah, it works. There. Our pipe is just buried there. You guys can see that. The rest of this will get shoved up in the end cap when it comes on. So we've got our silencer body. The key is make sure you put it in the right way. Just note how it came off, because in case it doesn't have the sticker, but note the hangers. And then these holes will pretty much help you guide it. So we just got some of this right stuff, 1 minute, super fast gasket, black high heat stuff. We're gonna put a little bit on the very inside edge because it's gonna get everywhere. Now, my nozzle was broke, so we're just gonna smear some on. Like, we got way too much here. We'll clean it up after, but yeah. You want the bag. No matter of getting this back on. Right like that. All right, so we got our rivet gun. You get the rivet lined up here, hopefully. So we figure out where the hole is. Right there. And we're going to rivet this closed.
Sorry, the conclusion. Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you. It's stupid. When I'm alone with you,
so our pipe's sort of centered, and what we want to do is slide the end cap over the center pipe. Then we want to apply a little bit of silicone like we just did, the high temp gasket sealant. Use our setup here. It's going to make a mess. We know that. We're using aluminum rivets so that they don't rust. We're just going to make this really shiny. So we're using some steel wool, some ultra fine steel wool, and the good old Autosol again. Trying to finish off the last of this too, but I think she's done. Well, the pipe definitely is a huge improvement on where it was. This thing was coated in rust. You can see we've got most of the rust off. We put a little slight polish by hand on it using our favorite Autosol. Obviously, we didn't get all the dent out. You can see we probably got about half of it out. I'm trying to show you guys. So I don't know if it's the seam that runs through here, or if I just can't get it hot enough with MAP gas. But all in all, the pipe looks a million times better than what it did. The silencer too. The silencer was an easy one. It was basically a repack and cleanup. So there's pretty much a brand new silencer ready to go back on this bike. Well, we've obviously made a night and day improvement on the pipe. This whole edge and side was rusty, and you can see that's all gone. The silencer is pretty self-explanatory, a simple repack. But it's good for you guys to know how to do it or to see how I do it. Also, one thing I learned about trying to do this at home rather than using an oxygen acetylene torch is that MAP gas and propane really don't seem to get the pipe hot enough to achieve that pressure pop. Now, I don't know if it's just because these are really close to the seam and maybe the dent is in there harder, or if it's just, or if it was the gas that couldn't do it. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching the video. Like and subscribe, and leave me a comment down below, especially if you guys have used those pressure systems before or have a different system for pulling out dents, because I'd really like to know your guys' thoughts and see what you guys think or how you do it. Anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Today's video is all about getting the bearings changed in our front and rear tire. This little tool is a specialty tool that's needed to do the Honda rear bearings. This thing sits in. I'll show you how it works. But it's from Motion Pro. there's the number, 08-0256. So I think this thing's 10 bucks. Now you could build one, you could mess around, but for $10, it's a great specialty tool to have for this application. Anyway, guys, these are the tools you're gonna need. A flat screwdriver to pull the seals, the blind bearing puller to pull the bearings, the seal driver kit to help you drive the bearings in and compress your seals in, penetrating lube in case we need it, and the specialty Honda socket. All right, first thing first, it's time to get the seal out of the way. Just got a little pick here to help me get it out. There we go. And now we'll have to remove the collar. This is where our specialty tool, the Motion Pro tool, comes into play. It simply slides into the groove of the collar. And then if you can hold the tire enough, there we go, breaking her free. It's threaded in, and that's why guys try to chisel them out. But just an aluminum collar. Wrong way. The blind bearing puller slides down. You can feel underneath the bearing, and it catches underneath. Put our wrenches on there, tighten it up. Install the driver. Basically a slide hammer, so you just bang it and the bearing comes out. We'll see how seized in it is. There we go. Tube and everything. We'll flip it over and we do the other side, get the seal out of there. It's coming. There we go. This side is full of grease still. Huh. Wonder if Buddy's changed the bearings not that long ago. Possibly. Might come out real easy. They both feel really good. Huh. Well, guys, these rear bearings, they're brand new. There's two on this side, so we're not going to change them. We're going to repack some grease. We're going to put the new bearing in on the other side. But as far as these two are concerned, we're going to use them. They're spinning no problem. There's no grinding. No sense putting a set of bearings in if you don't need them. So we're just going to take the seal. I'll put some grease on my glove. And then pack the seal in grease. I'll show you guys on the other tire too. And when we're dealing with seals, guys, there's I don't know if I can show you here. That's the outside. See how there's no groove? And the inside has a big groove here. So that groove we pack with grease. And that groove goes down. And we should be able to press it in, but sometimes you can't, and you need that bearing driver kit. We didn't need to drive the bearings in because, well, they're good. I'll flip it over and grease the inside of this where the bearing has to go. And our number one thing we're not going to forget is to put our tube in. The spacer tube that goes in first came out with the bearing. I'm just packing all around where the bearing's going to go. Then our spacer tube, we can put some grease on it. It's not going to hurt. Drops down in. We take our new bearing, we're going to put some grease on it. Bearing doesn't have a right or wrong way. It just goes in. It just goes down in there. But we are going to have to probably drive that in. So we've got our proper size. It just fits to the outside of the bearing. And we're just gonna drive that bearing. You can hear it's bottoming out. Just gonna make sure. Yeah, perfect. So we got our bearing in. It's time to thread back in our collar. Snug it up. I've already greased up the seal, making sure I put it the right way. We're gonna take a little bit more grease, put it around in here, help that seal seat. We'll clean up the excess, no problem. There's the seal. Again, you should be able to push it in. If you can't, you can, if you have the bearing kit or a socket, you can use it to help you push it down. There we go. Rear tire's done. Now the biggest difference between the front and rear tire, guys, it's a smaller bearing, but the big difference is there's only 2 bearings in the front, 1 on each side, and the rear actually has 3 bearings, 2 on one side and 1 on the other. So don't just go buy 2 bearings if you think you're gonna do a bearing and seal job. Install the blind bearing puller. You can see, guys, that somebody, I don't know if it just broke. The inside piece isn't in there. It was down like this, so you wouldn't notice. And it did spin pretty freely, but half the bearing is missing, half the seal. This is supposed to be a sealed bearing. There's supposed to be a hard piece there that covers it and keeps the grease in. Looks like somebody didn't want to buy bearings and they ripped it off. But for the price of bearings, we're putting a new pair in. Don't lose our little tube. We're gonna flip this over and do the other side. There's our seal, come right out nice and easy. Yeah, it's like they replaced the seals and then saved one of the old bearings. This bearing feels good, but we're going to take it out because I don't trust what he did on the last one. Just drive that bearing out. Same thing. The bearing's open on the one side. It's not down in there. Yeah, they've definitely tried to do some maintenance, but just replace them. Just wanted to give you guys a little pro tip. So what I do with my new wheel bearings is they're in the freezer. The new wheel bearings are waiting in the freezer, shrinking. The cold shrinks the bearing and it makes it 10 times easier to install into the hub. So there's our driver tool and there's our bearing. And if you guys can see it, they're almost exactly the same size, but this driver tool is a little smaller. But what it's doing is it's sitting on this edge, not on that edge. You don't want to drive the center edge in. You want to drive the outside edge when you go to hit these bearings. The more I touch them, the more these are warming up. But we're going to get that greased up and get them in right now. I'm out of rubber gloves. I thought I had more, but I'm out, so I got to pick some up. I hate getting grease. Well, I don't hate it, but it's just a pain in the butt when you get grease all over your hands. So we're going to put some grease down in the where the bearing has to go in the seal. We're going to then apply some grease to the outside of the bearing. We don't need much. There's lots in there. And a little bit on there, yeah. And then I'm going to simply, I got a sliver in my finger now. Oh well. Put that on there, just get it started kind of. And then get our driver on top. We're not going to be too aggressive, just gently tapping it in. Trying to drive it straight. You can see it's starting. Getting in there now. Bottomed out. I hope you guys can hear the audible change. But you can see the bearing is down in there. While we're on this side, take some more grease. Get it all up on there because we're going to put our seal in. The seals that come with the kit, they're both the same size. So we're just going to Again, get a little more grease. Pack it in the inside groove. There's no groove on the outside. A little bit around the outside edge, the circumference. And then we'll simply press the bearing in. Now, I'm not struggling here to press them in by hand. You might, so you could use your driver tool and just light taps, maybe with the hammer or a dead blow, and put it on in. Now, when we flip the tire over, first thing we're going to do is drop in the tube. We never want to forget that stupid tube. I've done it once. Have to take the whole thing apart, risk wrecking your brand new bearings. Put grease up in here again. Same process. Grease on the bearing. A little extra on this bearing. Put it back in there. Man, my tools are going to be greasy. My hands are going to be greasy. And because the bearings are a little smaller, because they've shrunk in the fridge overnight, it really does make this job a lot easier. I'm not hitting it hard, just a little bit of force. And then once it's down, one good tap, and it's in there. Same thing, grease the seal. They got these little grooves for a reason. Might as well fill them with grease. There's a spring in there. Just helps everything along the way. I'm just pressing our seal in. We'll use the tool to show you guys. Little tap. We're not trying to drive that seal in. We're just trying to get it in where it needs to go, flush, basically. So our next step, guys, is getting these forks actually in the right position and torqued down. So when I'm talking about aligning these forks properly, guys, right now I've got them crooked any which way, but the vent hole, which is the top screw, you have your clicker screw, and then you have your vent screw. And before you ride, you're supposed to vent off the excess air that's been built up inside the top of the shock, release all the air pressure on the valves. So I've only got one screw holding them right now. We're going to loosen it, adjust these so that they're straight. They'll run fine like this. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with this other than the fact of the cosmetically, they just don't look right. They're not straight. So we're going to align these up straight and then tighten them down. We'll zero our thing. It is zeroed. And then we're put it on there, and we're going to measure straight down to the top of the triple clamp. Level there, looks good. I'm at 7.86 millimeters. We'll check this side. 7.92. So 8.6 and 9.2. 8 on this one. And 8 on this one. Perfect. Now, if you can, guys, if you can get your hands on service manuals, if you plan on rebuilding the bike or keeping the bike for a long time, they are like invaluable. They're worth more than you can imagine. Every single bolt has a torque spec on these bikes, and front suspension torque specs are pretty important. You want to make sure you get them right. So we got the top pinch bolts. They are 23, and the bottoms are 20 Newton meters. So foot-pounds, that's 17 foot-pounds and 14 foot-pounds. So the front end's all back together. We got the suspension all torqued down to spec. The bars are back on and the front wheel's on. It's going to help us get the bike back on the stand and set up for the rest of the build. The wheel bearings were no big job at all. Simply a matter of taking the old parts out and putting new ones back in. The right tools really make the job a lot smoother. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. like and subscribe on the video. Leave me a comment down below if you got any questions or concerns, and we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, in this part of our 04 build, we've got to focus on getting this sprocket off the rear tire so we can start getting the whole back end of the bike, getting the swing arm, getting the motor in, start bringing this bike back together. Let's see how far we get. So the last guy who changed the sprocket on this bike, looks like he stripped out a couple of the bolts. So I imagine this is going to be a bit of a struggle, but first thing we're going to do is get rid of these bolts, clean up the hub a little bit, and get the new one installed. There we go. And you're not trying to turn the bolt, you're trying to break the nut free on the bottom side. You can see we'll get our tool on the top side, but it's this nut that we're more concerned about. So there we go, breaks free. If you try and tighten the bolt itself, you're gonna strip it. And that's what guys end up doing. So what we're gonna do now is just break them all free, and then we'll use the impact to speed up the process. So here's the sprocket that came off. You can see that they're starting to hook because of the wear. So this sprocket, you probably could have rode it a little more, but it's rough. And we don't like to do a bike without replacing them. So that's the one that came off. And you can see the difference here if I put the new one up against it, how much more material, and they're equal inside. So it's pretty wore out. Guys think they don't need to replace their sprockets, but that's what the sprocket looks like new. And there behind it is a worn out sprocket. So now it's just a matter of cleaning off any built up. There's a difference in metal happening, you know. You can tell it needs to just be cleaned up, and then it'll be good to go. So again, we'll just take a Scotch-Brite pad, clean up the mounting surface. If there's any big burrs or anything, obviously you'd need to take care of that, maybe just with a file. This one's good, there's no burrs. Guys, we got the sprocket set on there, and we've got a brand new hardware kit for the bike. So I just wanted to note that these don't have anti-seize. I know we put anti-seize on a lot of bike parts so that they come off easy next time, but these have a thread locker, a Loctite, that's the generic brand, right? But the thread locker, and they're using a red on here. So you want to make sure that your sprocket bolts don't come loose while you're riding. So you want to put thread locker back on your bolts if you're not changing the hardware. And we're going to torque these down to spec. Your bike might be different. This bike is 24 foot-pounds. And we're going to do it in a star pattern. Now we'll reinstall the chain guide on the swing arm before we put it on the bike, because it is next to impossible to try and get at some of these bolts. We're going to install the linkage on the bike with the roller bolt. Get our mountain bolts put in. We don't want to tighten these up yet, just snugget them. Now it's a matter of trying to line our swing arm up. Drop it in. Make sure you have a little bit of grease on your swing arm bolt. Just trying to line this so it slides in. There we go. Pull out this bolt. Get our reed cage back in the bike. You guys know me, I like to put a little bit of grease just by the bolt holes. We don't want to get it down in the cylinder, just to help hold the gasket. So we're just dabbing very little bit, barely, you can see it. Then we have the reed cage with the gasket. Just gonna slide it on. Perfect. Then the reed cage airflow guide thing. Now another little bit of grease because there's another gasket. The other gasket on. We're kind of working in a cross pattern again. We're not tightening them down yet, just snugging them up. Want to make sure that we don't tear the gaskets. We'll just snug them down. Drop our rear shock down. Install the chain guide. We're going to install some new chain guides, but what we're going to do is put a very little bit of anti-seize on the end of the threads. This stuff gets everywhere, and that little amount will work its way up in there. If you had a hard time getting yours out, I would chase the threads with a tap. And we're just going to thread it in, letting it work its way up in there all the way. Perfect. And we'll just back it out a bit. It's easier to back it out now than it is to do it when the axle's in. And we'll do the same to the other side. So before we go any further, we're going to torque down all of our linkage bolts and rear end bolts to 38 foot-pounds is what the book says. We'll install our head stay so we can torque down the rest of the motor. While the motor's still loose, we want to make sure all the mounts are in because you can see our lineup is not perfect here. So we're going to have to lift the motor just a hair. And if we torque those other bolts down, we'd never be able to. So don't go torquing everything down until you've got all the major stuff in place. Now we'll tighten up the head stay. We'll go ahead and torque down our motor mount bolts. They're supposed to be at 40. And then we're going to crank the swing arm pivot bolt to 65. Install the rear master cylinder. Install the coil. Install the CDI back onto the bike. So the electrical tape that was on here to seal up this end, and then it plugs in. This is from the coil, the magneto up to the CDI can read it. It was in really bad shape, so we pulled it off. We're just gonna retape it. Anytime you see stuff like that, guys, and you're doing a harness, and the tape looks horrible, take the time, pull it off, and do it right so it looks good when your bike's finished. Let's get this axle in. I gotta be careful, our bike's not strapped down. That's as far as we're gonna be able to get today. I forgot that I had ordered a few parts from the local Honda dealer for the rear brake. One of the little clips when I bought this bike was missing. So we've got it coming in. There's no sense putting the whole rear end together without having parts just to take it back apart. So anyway, guys, we got a lot done. The bike's really coming along. You know, it's actually starting to look like a bike rather than just a pile of parts. But thanks a lot for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if there's anything you guys want to see or what you liked, or if you like the series. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. In this video, guys, we're going to show you how to do the rear brakes, the front brakes, and hopefully get the chain and sprockets on this bike. We were waiting for a bunch of parts to come in from Honda. This little brake cable, the rear cable hold down was one of them. It's important to get this on now before your subframe is in because, you know, you can't get your screwdriver in there properly with the subframe in the way. So I just want to show you guys the importance of keeping these clips. You can see that somebody along the lines has thrown this clip out when they did the brakes on their bike. And they've just put the pads run directly on here. This is your the rear hanger that holds the caliper. The issue is that this is aluminum and the pads aren't, and it'll just wear the aluminum down. This one's savable. You can see here that like the notching, we don't need to worry about it. The clip will fit in and it'll carry it. But these clips, they're not cheap. They're like, for what they are, like $5 for one of these clips is quite a bit of money. So don't go throwing those clips out. You need them. So the clip itself has these little tabs on the side, and you can just take a pair of needle nose pliers and slightly bend them in just a little bit, and then it should hold itself, excuse me, should hold itself inside here when you press it in, because the tabs are now biting onto the metal. Make sure you push it all the way in, and then it won't come out. And there's another clip that goes inside the caliper, just like this. It has the same two little tabs. There's a clear spot where they clip in. It goes in there like that to hold the other end of the rear pad. One important step that's overlooked when you're dealing with your rear caliper is these rubbers. Double check them. You can buy a rebuild kit to see if they're ripped. These ones are like brand new still. We're not gonna bother pulling them out and checking them. I checked around the slots, seeing if they were ripped. They're not, but we're gonna put some grease in here so that when the caliper goes back on here, there's grease inside of this pin into this socket. That's just a matter of putting these two together. Oh, we're getting grease everywhere. Sliding the two slides together. And push in. Calipers back together in one assembly. Matter of putting our pads in. You can see this side of the pad needs to slide all the way into that back clip that we put on and hold in there. And this side has to line up with this guide pin. It just simply falls in there, nice and easy. Have your pin ready to go back in. We've cleaned ours up, got rid of any burrs on it or dirt, so it'll go in easy. Put the other pad in. Snug our pin down. Now on our 04, this guide needs to go into this track. Let me see if I can show you. Into this track here. There's a guide on the hanger. So it simply slides in, and then your axle holds it all in place when the axle comes in on the rear tire. So we'll throw that in now. We'll shove our axle in to hold everything together so it doesn't fall apart on us. We've got a brand new washer and nut to go on this bike. So we've got the rear caliper off our bike from the teardown build. And you can see that somebody has used the wrong tool on this, this cap before. We need to pull this in order to get the pads and separate the caliper from the holder. But I can't stress it enough that an impact driver is what you need. If there's one tool you're gonna buy, guys, spend some money. They're $20. I'm sure you can get them on Amazon, get them anywhere, but an impact driver. You simply put it in the part, apply pressure in the direction you want to go. You can set this to tighten or loosen. Obviously, we won't want to get rid of the part, so we want to loosen it. Apply pressure, and hopefully we can get it out of there. There we go. She's loosened up. But without it, you're gonna screw this little cap up. And you can see somebody's just mangled it before trying to use the wrong tool. We'll try and break this free. There we go. Get our bolt out of there. And now that we have our bolt out, the pads will simply fall out, but we need to separate the two hangers. Like the back one, they're just held together with the clips. There we go. Pads are out. We'll have to clean it up, obviously. So at this point, guys, obviously this needs to be cleaned up. We're going to take one of the old pads. These pads, you had a little bit of life on them, but since we're doing the bike, we're going to get rid of these, put new pads on. And we're going to take our channel locks and push those pistons back in. So you can see the piston here is way out. So if you simply put the channel locks on and use a brake pad, and you might have to really squeeze, and we can push those pistons back in. Obviously the front has 2 pistons. There we go. Just a matter of giving her a good squeeze. Now if you start noticing leaking or fluid coming out past the pistons, that means the seals in there are probably no good and you might need a rebuild kit, but in our case we don't. All of our parts still look good. It's just a matter of cleaning this up. Again, don't lose your little clips. They're super important. So same thing as the rear, we're gonna pack grease inside these slides. Put a little bit on here. Same to this front one. Try and get some down in there. And then some on the shaft. Install our clips. Sure we get them in the rear clip there. It's in. Same thing, the far clip. We got our caliper back together and our pads are in. Install the little pin that holds the pads. Now we'll simply sure our clips are in properly and simply slide it into the caliper and bolt it on, or onto the disc, sorry, and bolt it on. Some new hardware. We use our impact driver as a screwdriver to install the cap. We're not going to impact it, we're just going to tighten it up by hand. There we go. So we already got the back sprocket on in the tire video, and we're gonna put the front sprocket on in this video. If you pay close attention here to the sprocket, you can see this side has a thicker side, and this side is more smooth. The sprocket goes on the bike this way. This sprocket just happens to have the writing on this side. It goes on this way. Slides on. And on the CRs here, there's a washer. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but that washer is concaved. Okay, it's cupped. So this one happens to say it still. So sometimes that writing wears out. And it says this side out. So when they're cupped, the cup goes in against the sprocket. So I just want to show you guys this cool tool that I use for torquing down the main bolt. This bolt's got to be torqued to 47 foot-pounds. And this tool, it goes on to the swing arm, obviously, and holds your sprocket. You can adjust it for 14, 13, 15 mil, or 15 tooth sprockets, depending. We have a 13, so we're in that setting. And this tool is made by Sprocket Stuff. It allows you to put the proper torque on without having to go against your transmission, anything like that. If you do enough bikes, it's a good tool to have. We're just gonna torque this baby down, 47. There we go. Perfect. So now it's just a matter of sizing up our chain. I buy all my chains in 120 links, and that way we can cut them down. I like DID chains. Use what you guys like. Like obviously I'm not sponsored. I just have good luck with their chains, so that's why I use them. Don't forget to go through your chain guide. How many times have guys messed that up? You can see what link we're gonna have to take out. So I like to use a paint marker and simply mark. Oh, this paint marker's wore out. But I'm marking the link I want to remove. Just like that. Now guys, it's a matter of being careful here. We need to cut out that rivet, these two rivets. So I'm gonna hold it with my foot probably. And if you had a vise, you could do this in a vise. But we're gonna hold it, and I just got a grinder, and we're just gonna grind off those So we've got our spot all grinded. We're gonna take this chain brake tool, and it clips on, and as we tighten it, it pushes the rivet out. And what we do is we take our chain brake tool, and it's got a little pin there that pushes it through. You back it all the way out. You clamp it on your chain, and you start tightening it. And as you tighten it, it pushes that center pin of that one link that we ground off, the rivet, clean out. You see that there. Pushed it off. Now we can simply remove that link, and we have a brand new setup ready to go for the master. Now it's just a simple matter of rerouting the chain, setting it back in, taking our master link, feeding it in from the back side, the link on, and then installing the master clip here. So I recently bought a set of these master link pliers. I've seen them before, I never owned a set, but you can see they're actually short on one side. So it allows you to grab the master link and the nut and push them on. So we're gonna see how they work. You simply put your clip on. You can do this with a normal pair of pliers. I've done it for years, but look at that. These ones are just cheap ones from Tusk. You could probably take an old set of linesmen and cut them. But for the $5 and I needed to make up some shipping cost, I think these things are a good investment. Yeah. Now it's just a matter of adjusting our chain tension. And you want to be equal on both sides. Keeping an eye on how tight your chain is getting. We're gonna go 1 bar past half, 1 notch here past half, and see what we're at. You can see right now at the rim, I like to be 3 fingers. We're close, but a little bit more tension is what we need when we set this bike down. Now, obviously this is a brand new chain. The bike's under its own weight right now. Now the whole bike's not together, but we got 3 fingers. We may need to adjust this later on in the build, but we're gonna snug it up at this point. We snug it up by holding our line and locking that back one against the wall. Now it's just a matter of torquing down our axle. Our chain's adjusted. Perfect. All right, guys, one more little note here is this is the Polysport chain guide. And this thing, it really didn't fit. I had to file it and sand it. Maybe if the company was more apt to make it a chain guide instead of look like the stupid letter P for Polysport, it actually would have been a good product. So I'm going to have to tell you guys, do not waste your money on the Polysport chain guide. Front sprocket protector is what they're calling it. a waste of money. It cost me 20 or 30 bucks. I had to modify the hell out of it to get it to work. It's not like it's for the wrong bike. You can see on there it fits like 4 different bikes. Polysport, you can do better. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for this video. We got the front brakes on, got the rear brakes on, chain's been cut down and fits good. Sprockets are all on. You guys got to see a really cool tool to torque down and put torque on your sprocket bolt. But that's what we got for this one. Like and subscribe on the videos. Leave a comment down below. Let me know guys if you have anything better that works when your OEM ones are missing. I probably should have just bought OEM, but I thought I'd give these a try. But don't be like me, don't get suckered in, waste of money. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. In today's video, guys, we got to rebuild this carburetor. All right, so we got our Mikuni carburetor off of our CR250, and when I test rode this bike after I got back, it was just pouring fuel out of the bottom of the bowl. Which shows me that either the float or most likely the needle and seat aren't sitting right. So we're gonna rip this bike or this carb open. We've got a rebuild kit, so we're gonna put the whole rebuild kit in, get everything set up, check the jets. I've never had the carb apart yet, so let's see how far we get. So we'll get the bowl taken off the carb. One big thing before you start ripping apart your carb is let's get it as clean as you can. So I went through this thing with toothbrushes and wire brushes and got all the dirt scrubbed off because let's face it, on a 20-year-old bike, it's gonna be dirty. It's gonna be really dirty. Guys have had this thing apart. There's dirt all over it. These screws have seen better days. For some reason, nobody seems to ever have a screwdriver that fits on these bikes I buy. And we lay out a real clean work area when we're working on carburetors. We want to be able to see the dirt that comes off so we can see if there's anything stuck inside. Oh man, it's just a round hole. Somebody's just stripped that poor bolt. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I just got the carb on the edge of the table, trying to hold on these flat spots so that we don't damage anything. We're gonna try and use the impact driver because that screw is stripped. There we go. The importance of an impact driver, guys, like I say in all my videos that I use it, is probably one of the #1 tools we need to have when we're working on bikes. Take the bowl off. Yeah, some gunk in there a little bit, down in here. It's old fuel. Part looks good still. Take the float out. And the needle, shake it off there. Float looks good. We'll take a look though. There's a pin in the float right here. Don't want to lose that. Take a look at our needle. Pull our seat out. We're going to take out the screw on this one. The O-ring's seen better days, that's for sure. A little bit of dirt. I got a little bit of, I don't know if I can show you guys better with the light. And a little bit of dirt down in the bottom, sitting in places. We're gonna go ahead and clean all this up. So what we've got here, guys, is just a bowl of straight gasoline. It's not pre-mixed, it's not anything like that. It'll be fine. We're gonna test the float. So we're gonna put the float in it and see if it floats. We're just gonna let that sit. That'll tell us right away if our float is no good, if it starts to sink. I believe this one's good. It'll usually bubble and sink right away if your float's cracked, but it's good to let it sit while you do some work. Obviously, be mindful that you have a jar of gasoline sitting on your bench. So now we're going to take off the top of our Mikuni carburetor here. I'll lose that screw. Obviously, we have our throttle cable out of the bike. It goes in there. So what we're checking for on our slide body is any major scratches that we may have to take out while we're rebuilding the carb. May have to buff it or polish it. This one seems to be pretty good. There's a little something going on here. It's just like a wear mark where the chrome has come off. You can see there's a chip out of it here on this side. That's not good. We'll see. My big concern is I'm sure that this bike's been rode a lot. So that slide being broken like that, something broke it. We're gonna take a better look at this crack on this side. Ugh. Take our needle out. I just need to undo the little screw down in there. Use a nut driver so we can reach down. Use a ratchet. What position here? Where our needle is in the second clip. The bike didn't seem to run funny, but we'll see. So with 2 strokes, this screw down here is an air screw. On a 4-stroke, that's a fuel screw. So that adjusts the airflow into the bike versus the fuel flow. We're gonna remove it, as we don't know where it's set. And we're gonna set this car back to stock settings when we're done. There's a little spring. You can see an immense amount of dirt on that. So that needs to be cleaned up. We don't want any of that dirt inside the bike, obviously. So we got this old dental pick. I actually got this from the dentist. It's a broken tool, so they don't use it in your mouth anymore, and they've sterilized it, and they saved them for me. I guess we pay these guys enough money that they can give me a little broken tool now and then. Just helps me get my my O-rings out. I don't think there's anything wrong with this O-ring, but since we have one in the rebuild kit, we're gonna clean it all up and rebuild it anyway. Take the O-ring out of the top here. It's like glued in there, of course. On our bowl, we want to take the this whole bottom cap off. There's an O-ring in there, and there'll be a lot of grime and stuff underneath it. Yeah, there's an O-ring our kit comes with that we're going to replace, and we're going to clean up all that grime. See the air screws in there, or air holes. This is our idle. We're going to unscrew it. Yep. Clean it all up. I'm going to pull our choke here. Whole bunch of O-rings on there that if you're going to rebuild it, you might as well. Clean up that spring. You can feel the grime in there. It's just dirt. I don't know why they go through all the hassle of rebuilding the motor and then not cleaning these parts. You can see, guys, the crud that's coming out of this this thing. You can see it built up in there. I'm just trying to scrape it off. This is on the bottom of the bowl. It's leftover fuel, I'm sure. But you can see the crud that's coming out. So you don't want that inside your carburetor. Guys are always wondering why their carbs aren't running right. Well, you got stuff like that sitting inside it. What do you think it's going to do? Making sure to get all the little gunk out of places, especially on the inside here, and just draining it over top of the little bowl. If you could do it outside, probably better on some gravel or something like that. See that dirt built up there that I missed? I do. I don't know what's on the outside. I gotta get it. So you can see, guys, the new rebuild kit, I think it was like 20 or 30 bucks. I can't remember, it might have been a little bit more. But this is the old stuff up top, and the jets match with the main and the pilot. They match perfect. It even comes with a brand new air screw and a brand new air screw spring, which I didn't realize, so I went ahead and cleaned it. But we're gonna swap it out because there's no point in having brand new stuff that I'll never use again, possibly, when we can just simply install the new stuff rather than the old. So our float's been floating in our bowl of gas this whole time, and there's nothing wrong with this float, which is really good because it saves us from having to buy a float. Some rebuild kits do come with a float, but especially if you buy a cheap Chinese one or something, check it. Check that float before you install it, because the last thing you want to do is install it and have the float be bad right from factory. So I always check my floats. If they're brand new or not, I'll float them in gas. So we'll reinstall our pin in the float, like so. And I'll show you here. So your float, how you adjust how it sits is there's a little tab right there. And that little tab, you either bend it down or up, and that'll change the way the float sits inside the carburetor. I'll show you guys what I mean, because we're gonna check the height of the float when we get to that point. But we need to install the needle. The new needle goes on that little tab. So, oh, sorry guys. So it just slides over that little tab, and then it sits there and drops into the seat. There we go. Get our screw, our holding screw. Screws in right here on the bar of the float. So what we're checking here, guys, is the level of the float. So our floats, well, we'll hold our carb as level as we can. And what we want to see on this bike, it's 7.5 millimeters from the flat surface to the float. So we're going to check it with our thing here, and we're 7.58. I don't know if you guys can see that. So we're not going to be adjusting this float. So it is pretty good. It looks pretty level. If we had a problem where it was still leaking fuel, we would start adjusting this in order to shut the, how it works is when the carb is empty, it sits like this, upside down, obviously. So it's got no fuel in it. Once the fuel comes in, the float floats up and shuts off the needle. The needle valve, right, closes and then doesn't allow more fuel into the carb. Now we'll reinstall a little piece. Install the bowl. Our gasket's all seated in there properly. Got some new screws, so we're going to use them. We'll go ahead and install the drain cap. Got a brand new O-ring on there. Just wanted to make a note of this, guys. Here's all the stock settings for the Mikuni, the TMX 04A. So that's the 2004. But 2 turns out for the air screw is where we need to set it. So, and here's all your specifications if you guys are looking for any of that stuff. So we're gonna set our air screw. We put it all the way in at that position. So we're gonna go 1 turn, 2 turns out. So the only thing left, guys, is to replace the hoses. A brand new set of hoses really adds a lot to the bike. So I use the old hoses to size up what I need. This hose is obviously brittle and broken, so we've cut it up. And I use these guys, Max Flow hoses. They've treated me right. They help me out. They're able to get stuff to me and get it shipped down here. So if you guys are looking for new hose, give these guys a try. They're on eBay. They got their own website. It's maxmotorsports.com. Max Flow hoses. But yeah, check them out, guys. The prices are good. They got kits for all sorts of bikes. If you don't need to buy 100 feet, you just need a little bit. These are the guys to go with.
Promise I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top. Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you, bitch, always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality.
Right on, guys, that's the carb rebuild video for the 04. You know, we put the whole kit in, needle and seat. I think that's going to solve our leaking fuel problem. I really have no doubt in my mind that that's what it was. There was a lot of dirt in there. We got a lot of dirt out. You guys saw how I scrubbed everything up and cleaned it. If you didn't, go back and watch it. New vent hoses are on the bike. That's awesome. They look really good. That company, MaxFlow, they worked with me, helped me deal with customs, shipped me a whole bunch of stuff up here. They're not a sponsor of the video by any means, but I'm really encouraging guys, go to their website, check them out. Great family company, great business, and they just went the extra mile for me, and I'm sure they do it for you. But yeah, anyway, like and subscribe on the video. Leave a comment down below if you guys want more information on the hose company or the rebuild kit or anything else. Let me know, but we'll see you guys in the next one. In this video, guys, we got to clean up this breather box. So I've seen a lot of things when it comes to bikes. Rebuilt a lot of them, but we got a heck of a hole here. The exhaust from the silencer and the where the pipe comes together, I think was rubbing right on here because the guy didn't have a rear mount, and it melted a giant hole. I wouldn't say giant hole, but it melted the hole and it melted the breather box. So we're gonna have to figure out a way here to clean this up. We're not gonna be able to make it look brand new. I don't even know if you can buy this part. I've been trying to look for it, but I don't think it's worth it on this bike. I think we're gonna have, this isn't gonna be a show bike, it's just gonna be a nice bike. So we're gonna end up having to do something, whether I weld it or melt some plastic into it or put a cover on it. I haven't really figured out, but our first step is to get this cleaned up. Here's the thing, guys. You can't get at these screws, and everybody's like, how do I get at them? Well, you gotta crush it. You gotta crush the rubber out of the way. And on these Hondas, I don't know if the 04 has it, but I know 02 does. We'll have to look when we get it apart. There's supposed to be a foam ring that goes in there. It's a stupid design. That's why everybody silicones them, because the foam rots out. It might have been good for the first year, but the next 15 years of the bike's life was just missing the foam. Yeah, there's no foam. It's gone. So somebody siliconed it on there, which, you know, what's what we're gonna do. That foam is it's useless. Guys have other things you can buy, but they're basically foam or rubber gaskets too, and they don't work any better. So we're gonna get this all cleaned up and then reassembled. I just got a bucket of Dawn dish soap. You guys know I like my Dawn dish soap. Stuff cuts through grease and grime pretty good, and it's cheap, and it works. Price really isn't the big thing for me, just the fact that it works. I'm just gonna soak her down with some Simple Green. Let it eat away at some of that harder stuff. We're also We're also going to clean the tank, the fuel tank, because it's got a lot of grime on it. And since it's a nice day and, you know, the weather's here and we got the stuff out, it needs to get done. We're probably going to clean up the rest of our plastics, the ones we need to save, like the fuel tank. I've said it before in another video, but Vim, the cream Vim, it's got bleach in it, but this stuff cleans white plastic, clear plastic, like you wouldn't believe. I don't use it on the colored plastic like red or black because I don't want to pull anything out of them, but the white plastics, this is the go-to for cleaning it. You can see this plastic, we've scrubbed it a bit, but it's got all sorts of grime. It's got a tinge to it, a little bit of red tinge there. Something's rubbed against it. So we're just gonna coat it up pretty good. I'm gonna use an SOS pad. We're just gonna, or sorry, not an SOS pad, a Scotch-Brite pad. Get it wet. I'm gonna put a bunch on it. You know, if you don't have any, your wife probably does, or your girlfriend or your mom. You know, the stuff cleans bathrooms. I'm sure they're using it. But even just scrubbing a little bit there, you can see the difference, guys. So we went downtown, we got some popsicle sticks, and we got some plastic weld. So basically what we're gonna use this for is to rebuild this area of the breather box. We're gonna try anyway. You can see the breather box is pretty melted. What I've done is shove some Gorilla Tape down in there, just some like duct tape, black duct tape. It's obviously the other way. We're gonna use it as a backing and then pull it out from the inside. It's stuck down in there. So let's see how we make out. When it comes to this plastic weld, you snap it open and there's like an A and a B, right? And they're a 50-50 mix. You can buy it in different forms. We don't need a lot of it. So we're just gonna put this stuff out. I did buy 2 tubes in case we need a bunch more. And we'll take our mixing sticks and just mix it up. You want it mixed really good. It's hard to see, I'm sure, on the video, but there's a clear gel and a black gel. But we want to mix it up pretty good. We're using popsicle sticks because we can just throw them out after. This is probably going to be a messy, crappy job. I'm not going to lie. But what do you do when you have a breather box like this and you can't get another one? Worst case, I do know where there's a breather box that might work for this bike, but we're going to try this method first. We're going to sand it all after to smooth it out. But by using that backing tape in there, it gives us something to try and fill that giant void. So it's been about a half hour, and this stuff's definitely hard enough to work with. So we're gonna take a file and get a better shape on this, and then work some sandpaper and maybe an orbital sander to try and smooth this out. Let's see how it goes, guys. So we're using a pretty aggressive file here, guys, like a rasp more than a file, to really get in there and dig that out. We're just going over with some 1000 grit to try and take any high spots out. I don't think we're gonna get it much better than what we've got. The epoxy's curing, but I think there's a lot of old oil and stuff in this plastic. Obviously the exhaust was here, it melted in. So we're running into a bit of a concern there. If you were to paint it, We're not painting plastic. We don't do that. We're gonna clean it up, get it back to black with putting SC1 and other things into it so that it brightens up. But we're just gonna try and get rid of the dull finish. So our next step here, guys, is we've cleaned the product with soaps and whatnot. So we're just using 99% alcohol. Just you buy it at the drugstore, no name brand. And we're just gonna clean the area where the boot is gonna go to pull any oils or anything like that. Like obviously there's gas and stuff over the years. We're gonna clean it up really good, give it a good scrub. Just some paper towel, you can see it's pulling out a bunch of stuff. And it'll dry the oil so we can put our black silicone gasket on the boot and get it attached. So we've got 90% at least of the silicone removed, obviously. And we're not gonna put it on the outside edge. There's a hump here that rides in this groove. We're actually gonna apply our silicone to the groove. Just a light coating, like we got a really small hole in the top here. I usually like to buy them in a caulking gun, but I had this, so we're gonna use it. And we're just gonna go around, apply a little bead to help this breather box seat on the thing. Man, this is a pain in the ass. Buy the caulking gun one. This one sucks. And we'll install our thing on the breather box. Try not to mush it everywhere. Where's those holes? Right there. And you don't need to have silicone oozing out the sides. This, if you put it on that hump, it's gonna seal it. You don't need to, I don't know why guys fill that cavity with silicone. It just creates a mess. Well guys, considering what we started with, a giant melted hole and a really beat up flap and everything was pretty gungy and covered in blue silicone, I think we turned out pretty good. We'll have to do a little bit more cleanup once we get it installed in the bike, try and blend some more of this in. But all in all, the plastic came out pretty good. It's a little scuffed up, but the pipe will run along here. We're never gonna get it perfect. If we were going for that perfect look, we would have replaced it. But not bad, looks pretty good. So we got a brand new clutch cable and throttle cable for this bike. So yeah, it moves freely, but it's a brand new cable. So this cable's seen no lube other than what the factory gave it. So I just have one of the cheap little cable lube jobs. We're gonna put it on. What you do with these cheap little suckers is you put the cable in the slide, and then you put the bottom of the cable inside of the unit, and then you tighten it down and squeeze on the actual cable and tighten up the top. So you simply slide the cable through the slot and make sure your outer cable is inside the unit. And there's a small hole there. And you buy a can of cable lube. What's this one? This one's from Moose. So just extends the life of your cables, all sorts of great stuff it says it does. I don't know if it does, but it does lube the cables. And you stick it in the little hole. We got our tube in there. And I like to make sure the bottom is in a pail. And when I start spraying it, it goes everywhere. The stuff squirts out. I don't know if the Motion Pro one actually works better. With there's another style. I don't know, I've seen guys use it. They just keep giving her little shots. And it'll start coming out the bottom of the cable. You just want to kind of wash for it. Now I'm getting it all over my hands. There, it's coming out the bottom now. Perfect. Now, other than the pile of it pouring down my hand, This cable's done. And you simply unthread it, pull out your cable. Now it's super loose, got lots of lube in there. It really helps the cables. So now in the service manual, guys, it shows you throttle cable side, clutch side. The clutch needs to run over to the throttle side, and the throttle runs to the clutch side. You can see that. The throttle comes over to this side and that side. We'll show you how to run them. And then there's another diagram right here. You guys can get a good look if you don't have a service manual. This isn't the cheap one, this is the one right from Honda. So, and it'll show you like the clutch cable, how it runs, comes through and actually goes through the head stay. That's a big one guys miss a lot, is that on this bike, on the 04, it comes through the head stay and down to the clutch. We're gonna start with the throttle cable. So I just temporarily placed the throttle body, like the twist throttle part, together. We're gonna thread, start threading our thing in. We're using ODI grips on this bike, so it comes with a new throttle tube. So we're obviously gonna use that because that's how they work. You simply slide your new cable. Simply slide it in the grip is what I was gonna say, into the throttle body part. And then there's a wheel that needs to go in here around the cable, and the screw holds it down. Then your throttle simply comes through. You might think this is bent funny, but it's not, guys. It's just, that's how it needs to be for the throttle. We go down around the power valve servo, cuts under, right through here, through the power valve servo. There's a little bit of space here. I believe that's how it runs. And then right down to your carb. It's got a nice flow and then a nice straight drop into the carburetor. So you guys can see the cable here. Runs straight down, nice along the inside, and then it has a nice straight drop to the carburetor, so that there's no binding. Where'd our cable go? Right there. So we're going to take our cable and feed it through the top of the carb. Then we're going to, oh, our gasket fell off. That's going to be a pain in the butt. But that's okay. These things happen to everybody. And then we're gonna, if I can grab it with my greasy hands. There's the spot in there. You have to slip your cable into it. Just like that. And then we can let the plastic piece in. Just like so. It's gonna look all bunched up, but when it's under pressure in the carburetor won't care. All right, so we've got our cable installed. And now we'll just install our slide body back into the carb. On this bike, there's a throttle position sensor. So it has this big spring that you need to lift up out of the way. And then we will kind of hold it with one finger and drop the slide body, or the slide into the body. Like so. And it rests on top of the slide and pushes it in. We'll tighten the screws down. So we're gonna run the clutch cable. And I actually like to kind of cheat and start in the middle. I like to run it through the head stay and get this end of it taken care of first. I like to take a flat screwdriver and just help me out by opening that up just a hair, because different brands are different thicknesses sometimes. We need to get that up in that back hole, just like that, and then we'll give it a pinch to close it so our cable doesn't fall out. Just a little pinch. Now our cable can't fall out. It moves freely. So our clutch cable's coming up through the head stay, and then we're just gonna route it up through. Comes up through. Just like that. And comes under the brake, obviously, and up to your clutch. All right, we're gonna go ahead and install the subframe. We can get it hooked to the carburetor. Getting the boot on the carb is one of the worst jobs when it comes to reassembling motorcycles. So when we tore the bike apart, it had the wrong bolts in the subframe. So we're gonna put the right ones back in. They come with the bolt kit that we buy. All right, guys, well, the 04 is really coming along. The breather box is back together. We fixed a giant hole that was on there. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Pretty impressed, actually, that it worked. We got the cables ran. Now, the importance of running cables, guys, like where they need to go, the proper places, is they won't work right. Like if they're not in the right spot, the clutch cable won't slide. I have a bike over there where I know the cable's wrong and I haven't got back to fix it yet. And the clutch pull is ridiculously hard. So take the time, look it up, guys, figure out where the cables go and put them where Honda or Yamaha or whoever's bike you're working on says they need to go. It's a pretty important part. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions or you have any better suggestions for ways to lube the cables. I know that little tool I got works, but I don't know if it's the best way to do it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. In this video, guys, it's time to try and fix these rads. Pretty bent. So what I like to do first when we're dealing with the radiators is obviously this radiator is bent in. That's the easy fix. The harder fix is when you look down it, and if there's any twist. This one's not too bad, but we're gonna put it in the vise. If you have a set of soft jaws or aluminum jaws, but since I'm gonna be prying on it, I just wanna apply a little pressure, light with the vise, and then basically twisting it with my hands to get it straight. You can see we've got this rad pretty straight. Yeah, it's good. So what we've got, guys, is we've got a block of wood, like a 2x6, what I had laying around. And what I want to do is to prop this up against it, because we need to get this flat again back down there. And you can see the bend and the twist, especially when you put it on the wood. So we're gonna use this other 2x6. The 2x4 is fine too. I don't have a long enough piece here. And we're just gonna drive it with the dead blow and work that aluminum guard out. Couple hits, take a look. Still needs more. Just coming along, you can already see the improvement. These rads didn't leak, so hopefully we don't damage them. But they're no good bent like that. Coming along, a lot straighter already. We're just gonna keep working it until we get the effect we want. Go to this side, you see it's up a bit. Just gonna rest the wood on that edge. So just because the bike had a little bend in the rad doesn't mean you need to buy new rads. These rads are actually in pretty good shape considering the bike is over 20 years old. And yeah, they came right back out. So our next step is getting the hoses installed back on the bike. Quite a few of them when it comes to the coolant system. We'll get that on the top of the head. Get the clamp down. Now we're not going to tighten the clamps until we get everything situated. Get our rad installed. Hose has got to slip through in there. So we're going to set up the RC valve, and I've actually done a video on this before, and I think it's pretty good rather than trying to refilm the whole thing. It's pretty simple. It kind of needs its own video. I'm going to set it up quick on this install, but I'm going to leave a link up here wherever it pops up. I'm not sure. And so if you guys want to see the RC valve video, click the link. We're just installing the exhaust manifold. There's a gasket that goes on in behind. One thing to note, guys, every time I do one of these bikes, they're always missing the exhaust gasket. There's a rubber gasket that has to go on there. It's not just a normal O-ring. You have to buy it from Honda. I'll see if I can show you guys. My hands are filthy, don't mind that. But you see the gasket has a taper to it, like it kind of has a high spot. So that needs to go on there. Perfect. They're not a lot of money, but night and day difference on your bike. Install our pipe. There we go. Use our spring puller tool. Kind of a must-have tool if you're working on dirt bikes, guys. Hard to do and not block the camera. Install the fuel tank in the bike. I ended up getting a brand new strap for this bike because it was missing. So close. There we go. So what we're going to do now, guys, install the fuel line. We're not going to use the old fuel line. We're going to basically copy the bend with this new clear fuel line. We'll cut it to its size. This is from the same people who I got the hose from. They sell all sorts of hose, this Max Flow Motorsports. So great company, guys. If you're looking for hose, use them. It's a little chilly in my garage tonight. The weather's been changing. Winter's coming, it's inevitable. The hose is just a little bit hard to get on. If you're having the same problem, guys, you could use a heat gun and put a little bit of heat on it and it would cause it to swell. But if you don't need to, then don't. But if you do, don't be afraid to use what you have available. Don't struggle. I'm so close to getting it on. You guys are watching me struggle. But if I was really having problems, I would definitely get the heat gun out. Oh, it's so close. Perfect, got a nice flow right into the carb. All right, so we're gonna grease up this air filter. I like to usually pour some stuff in a bag and do it that way, but we're gonna do it over top of the garbage can today. I've used the Ziploc bag before and kind of saves some oil. we got a brand new twin air filter for the bike. So we're gonna use the Maximus stuff. I really like this filter oil. It really seems to work good. And if you got something that's working, why would you change it? So we just, you're gonna spill some, it's gonna go all over. So do it either outside on the gravel or over a garbage can. You're just gonna work that oil into the filter. This stuff is sticky, guys. That's why I'm wearing the gloves. We're not trying to wring it out so much because we don't want to tear the filter. We just want to squeeze it in, squeezing it as we go around until it's a nice color, kind of equal everywhere. Sure, you check the inside. You don't have great big wet spots, and just working it around. Looks good to me. Now we'll install the filter onto the cage. I'll show you guys. When you're installing it on the cage, you want to get, kind of has the shape, right? You're going to look at it, you're going to see it. You push the center here over top of the cage. So it's actually over top of, I don't know if you can see it real good, over top of the little black thing in there. It pushes into it. And then you want to line up the hole with the part of the filter here. Now I don't want to touch too much stuff, so I'm not going to shut the camera off. I'll have to do it after. Go up a hair here. Take our safety bar out. Lower our lift. Don't hit nothing. And it's just a matter of installing it into the bike. It's nice and easy right now to show you guys and shoot it with the rear fender and everything out of the way. You'll feel when you get it in the right spot. It'll kind of lock in. You just tighten down your wing nut. Brand new. The Tusk breakaway clutch lever, garbage. It does not fit the Tusk perch. It doesn't fit anybody's perch. It's too thick. All right. Rocky Mountain, if you're watching, pay attention. Okay, we got a brand new Tusk lever, right? It's the fold-away one, right? They're not free. I had to pay for it. I'm going to show you guys against the background here a little better. So it's too thick. This part here, it's got to be 3/8 or better, but the groove is only 1/4 inch. They don't fit. They don't fit the stock one. You order it for your bike, but they don't fit. I'm getting really tired of these companies charging premium dollars for crappy parts. It's upsetting. Anyway, Rocky Mountain, I'll send you an email and a link to the video and asking you guys to do better, because this is, it's not acceptable. I've ordered from Rocky Mountain 3 times. All 3 times, I've had nothing but problems. Their shipping's fast, and the parts that do work really good. They carry a lot of parts, but the ones that don't, they just don't work. They're just no good. So anyway, because I'm not just gonna complain and get the same part, what we've resorted to is hand filing the aluminum lever to fit the perch. We shouldn't have to, but we do have to. Every time. Anyway, so if you order them, guys, if there's something I'm missing, let me know. But, you know, it should fit. I don't know why it doesn't fit. Why are they building them 3/8 when they should be 1/4 inch? I don't know. I've ground it, and now we're going to hand file it up. So bear with me. Now we're going to mount all of our controls, clutch levers and things like that. We're not mounting these permanently yet until we feel them from being on the bike. We're just going to snug them up so we can work with them. Just barely. Like if you spun it, you could scratch your bars, but it's on there. We'll take our new lubed up cable and route it into the bottom of the lever. Oh, come here, little adjuster. Slide it in where it needs to be. Take the adjuster out a little bit. Well, more adjustment in the cable there, obviously, and that's what we're gonna have to work with. I'll pull our cover back off, and our throttle's loose still, but it's pretty good there. It feels, nothing's really holding it up. Lots of snapback. We may have to adjust it a little bit when the bike is running to see if it's set too high, if it's gonna cause the bike not to idle properly. But we'll see when we get there, but so far so good. We're gonna go ahead and adjust. We're gonna adjust the master cylinder about where we want it. So I know how I like the master cylinder, and I like it, or the front brake, because I like it in quite far so that it's not in the way. I can reach out and it puts my hand into the proper position. So I'm gonna give it a rough idea of where I think it should be, and then when we get the bike all back together, we may have to do some minor adjustments. There, we're getting some brake on her now. We've got the kickstart in the vise, not very hard, just firm enough to hold it. And then we're gonna put our impact driver in, turn to loosen, give her a hit. Now she's in there, this one. There we go. Perfect. Take the screw out. Ooh. Yeah, I can imagine what it's gonna look like in there. That screw is, that doesn't look like grease to me, not anymore. Now there is a little ball bearing in here. We don't want to lose it. Where is it? Right there. We don't want to lose that little ball bearing. Got one of my old Tupperware dishes so we can put the parts in. There's a little ball bearing, like I said, and there's a spring behind it. It's not falling out, so when we clean it, it'll hopefully come out. And then we basically clean this really good and repack it with grease. So we've got the kickstart all cleaned up. All the components are clean. And it's back in the vise just to make it easier for me to film it. So I've got my grease, just the Maximus waterproof grease. It's pretty good grease. And a small jar like this will last a normal person forever. I'm pretty excessive with my grease. And since I do a lot of bikes, I don't know, I've used half a jar in a year and a half. So what we're doing is packing this area full of grease. And I mean full. I'm gonna sell this bike. Let's face it, the next guy's not gonna grease it. He's not gonna take it apart every year and do it. It's just inevitable. And then when it comes to our little piece here, this gloves I bought, they're pretty crappy. My black ones I had before were better. Putting a little grease in the hole. Then the spring goes down in there. You guys can see that, hopefully. The spring drops down in that little hole. Then I like to have a little bit more grease on top of the spring so that it'll hold the ball bearing. Pack it all in, yeah, nice and good. Then there's the seal that has to go down in here. What did I do with it? Right there it is. So that seal, just like all the other seals, it's got a little ring down in there. We want to put the ring side, one side's solid, the other side's got a little slit. That slit needs to go down into the thing there. And our kickstart goes in. Grease coming out everywhere. It's pretty normal. I'm putting it in the right way. Nope. Just like that. It's got to go down in. Pushes in, grease comes out everywhere. That's fine. That makes me know I got enough in there. Get rid of this stupid glove. We're going to take our screw and simply reinstall it. Tighten up, and then just snug. We'll come over here, install the Kickstarter. I don't know if you guys remember, we had to order a brand new bolt from Honda because the guy had the wrong bolt. There's no washer. It's a bolt with a big collar on it. It's a special bolt. If yours doesn't have it, it's like $3. Buy another one. Now we got the rads all mounted and all the hoses hooked up as well. I like to top up the coolant system, get it taken care of and out of the way so we don't forget. Now we always check, but we also want to see if there's any leaks. We fix the water pump and see if anything starts leaking here. I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a proper way to pour out of a jug. And it's not like that because it'll gurgle and jug. It's actually like this so that you can let the air come in and you don't spill out. Just in case you guys didn't know, kind of thing. We got a pile done in this video. The rads are on, they're all straight. I'd love to know if you guys have any better ways to straighten rads. That's the way I do it, and it seems to work really good. Quick, you know, save some money. We got the fuel line ran, air filters on, pipe and silencer, all the controls, the breakaway levers. That was a lot of work to get this one adjusted. Rocky Mountain, I'm not really impressed with these Tusk breakaway folding levers. They're not that good. Save your money, guys, buy somebody else's product. There's a lot of work that you need to put in to get them on your bike. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe in the video. Leave a comment down below if you've had the same luck with these levers or have a better way to do the rads, like I said. But anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Today's video, guys, we're gonna get all the plastics on the bike. So one thing that's really nice about this Polysport kit is it comes with this little L bracket that they've included because they know the kit's for 02 to 07, the new body style, but the 02 actually doesn't need this little bracket, but the 04 does because they've changed the triple clamp on the 04. We're not going to snug it right down yet until we get the plate on, but you can see that it makes a perfect setup for it.
I got issues in my head. I like you in my bed, but you keep me on red. Oh, everything is like a test. I better not text or I'll come desperate.
Now in this build, guys, we mentioned in another video, I was gonna do a nice seat cover, but the seat was broken, had a crack in it at the back. So we ended up buying a brand new Polysport seat, and the cover is amazing. For the price, you get a fully completed seat for basically the price of a cover. So I don't know why you wouldn't, unless you really were in love with a look that you were going for. But let's face it, guys, like, look at this thing. It's really, really good, actually. Other than I don't like the wrinkles that are happening here. Huh. Yeah, I'm not happy with that, Polysport. The wrinkles on the covering job. Huh. We may have to pull the cover a bit and stretch her forward. You see that? Polysport, you've been letting me down. Maybe we will be doing a seat cover video. Well, guys, I just want to show I've got this Polysport seat, and I'm definitely not impressed. I thought it was a great buy. I thought, oh my God, I found a $100 seat, American, and look at the gap. That's horrible looking. You know, it just looks like, and this is a Polysport plastic kit with a Polysport seat. You think they would be able to realize their own gap. Well, yeah, I'm not impressed. We're gonna send some pictures to Polysport and ask them what they were thinking. The tank's right. Everything is right. This is an 04 CR250. The kit is supposed to fit. The seat is for an 04. I get it that they've allowed something for the stock plastic, but this is a Polysport restyle kit. The Polysport seat should fit it. Just buyer beware, guys. Polysport really seems like they're going downhill. I've had a lot of products on this bike. I went and bought mostly Polysport stuff to see how it'd go, and it's just not working out. They're just like, there's a lot of modifying you have to do to make it right. So we tore the cover off, and this bike's got a brand new clutch in it. Brand new Barnett clutch. Full assembly, basket, everything is brand new. It's kind of unexpected. The kid said he put a clutch in it, but I didn't realize that he actually put a whole clutch in. You know, people say a lot of things, and sometimes that stuff's not true. So we ended up getting all our covers back from Cerakote. We just went with our normal burnt copper, bronzish Cerakote color. I don't even know what it's called. It's the one I usually get when I do bikes. So we're gonna go ahead and install those. And if you guys haven't seen what I normally do, whenever I take a cover off, I end up making a little template of where the bolts go. So they're all different lengths, so that way you know which bolt came out of which hole. It's just a good thing to keep in mind whenever you're taking a motor apart. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, the Cerakote looks great. The problem with it is no matter what you do, it's always gonna wear off. I've tried all sorts of different stuff. I'm tempted to try and powder coat them, but the Cerakote, it doesn't work. It looks good, but it really doesn't work. We've got to figure out a better way, guys. All the motorcycle guys out there, we've got to figure out a better way to get these things coated so that it actually holds up. We'll just go around and snug them all in a cross pattern. We'll go ahead and top this bike up with oil. There's nothing in it right now, so I don't know if it's going to need 800, 750, but with Hondas we have the drain hole. So you simply remove the bolt. We've changed the washer on it to give us a new crush washer, And we're gonna fill it with oil until oil starts dripping out of the overflow. There it is. Just slowly dripping out. We'll let that settle in for a second. Put our cap up. We're not going to tighten the cap down. We want the air to be able to come through. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start installing the graphics. Now, I used a new graphics company that I've never used before. They actually sent me the wrong graphics, but they look pretty good. And they're resending me the graphics I want, but we'll save them for another build. I like these ones they sent. They're kind of neat, kind of give it a different look. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean the plastic, and we're just gonna use alcohol, 99% isopropylene alcohol, no name brand from your local pharmacy, you know, Walmart, whatever brand you want. And we just put alcohol on a piece of paper towel, and we wipe down all the plastic, getting rid of any kind of oils or dirt from my grubby fingers touching it or from factory. These are all brand new plastics, never been rode outside, and I still clean them. Don't skip this step, guys. It's an important step that you need to do. Clean the fork guards, clean the fork tubes. Yeah, see the grime coming off of there? The alcohol really pulls it out. Now, if you don't do it, that's gonna be under your stickers and they're not gonna stick. It's just that simple. And I just go ahead with another new dry paper towel, and any areas that have excess buildup, I wipe them off. Just quick go over any of these low spots where there could be like a little bit of alcohol sitting. We don't want that getting under the graphic. I'm being mindful not to touch anything with my hands. So I always like to try and, like, this is a new company. I've never used them before. They're backed on 3M sticker material, I guess. I've never used them, so I don't know how good they're gonna stick. So I always do a piece like the front first that I've trimmed it, because they had all sorts of stupid tails with their logo. Now, they didn't give them to me for free and say, hey, we'll sponsor your video. So no, I'm taking your logo off. It just makes it harder to install. So we got rid of that. And now we're going to, like, I've cut them way down. We're gonna try and stick it on and see how they go. I like to do all my stuff on the bike. Get rid of that. Pick a center point, like the tip of this front fender. Sort of touch it, and then eyeball it up. That doesn't look too bad. And I like to work from the center out. This isn't looking too bad. It's about equal, sorta. No. Try again. Find some decent stickers that actually you can grab a hold of and pull on and off. Really helps. This isn't too bad. This looks pretty good. I am by no means the sticker guy. There's guys out there that can do this stuff with their eyes closed to make it look amazing. Not me. I'm always worried. I take my time. If there's any little scuffs from my hands or glue, we take that off after with the rubbing alcohol again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. They actually laid pretty nice on there. So we're actually gonna unbolt this horrible Polysport seat. It's just so upsetting to see this. But we're gonna take it off so that we can do the rear fender properly and the front fenders. And then we'll probably have to try and fix this seat. Like, this is not the way when you buy a brand new seat it should come. It's sad. So we got the seat and the side panels off because, as you guys can see, this plastic's gonna kind of reach in and tuck right up tight on here, which I'm surprising. I've never seen that done by a company. So we'll see. I don't really know if I care for it or don't. Looks like we're gonna require a bunch of trimming, but you know what? They're eBay graphics. None of the companies seem to want to build what I wanted. These are what I got, so we're gonna use them. The only way that I think you can get good at graphics is by doing graphics. So the more different brands I seem to do, the better I get. These ones actually, they really stick. Like well, right now they really stick. We'll see if they really stick in a week, if they start peeling off. But actually for eBay graphics, I'm kind of impressed, I guess. So I've got another set from this company on their way of the actual ones I wanted. There was a bit of a miscommunication error. I don't blame them. I blame that I was like, oh, how much to send me to? Can I save on shipping? And obviously it's some graphics guy from China. And he's like, no saving on shipping. And I'm like, all right, well, then I'll just buy these, because the problem was trying to get them to understand. And I've had it before where you order it for the Polysport Restyle kit and they want to sell you the old Restyle kit graphics. I don't want the old kit graphics, I want this kit's graphics. So I was a little concerned and I ended up ordering the ones that he had listed that said they fit, rather than saying, hey, can you make me this pattern that fit? And I kind of screwed it up. I screwed him up, I think. He didn't understand I wanted both. But he was more than willing to work with me to get me what I want. So good company. This CG, I don't know. We'll see, we're gonna have to cut a slit there. Throttle jockeys they fit really good. But they're also like 300 bucks. No, I'm not dissing Throttle Jockey. Their stuff's good. American made, American company. I have lots of them on lots of my bikes. The 96 is getting new Throttle Jockey graphics. My 01's got Throttle Jockey graphics. I think the 02's got a Throttle Jockey kit. I'm working these seam lines. I don't know if you guys can really make it out, understand. But I'm trying to roll it and get it really in. I have a bubble here that I'm gonna have to slit because there's normally a slit there. These ones don't have that slit. It's a little sad. We'll put the side decals on. So this side decal actually had, I'll grab it so you guys can see. This side decal actually had a longer white tail, but we're not using a white side fender, so I cut it off. Don't be afraid to modify the graphics if you don't like them, guys. They're just stickers. Do what you want, it's your bike. I didn't like it. I cut it off clean with the line here. And I think it's gonna hopefully be better. It's not gonna be worse. So yeah, we basically will just line up these two holes roughly and start working our way through.
So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life.
What I'm doing, guys, is trying to slide to manage the gap here. There's always a weird fit up because they have to kind of clip into each other. And the Polysports can be a little bit tricky to install. So really leave your bolts loose, try and manage your gap as best you can. They're not gonna fit perfect on everything. Maybe your subframe's tweaked, maybe the bolt hole's a couple mil different. But anyway, we're trying our best. It looks pretty good. So we've got our brand new seat off because of these horrible ripples. Now, it's a Polysport seat. It comes with the plastic and everything. It says Polysport. I feel like these are too far spread apart as well. We're not gonna change them, but it's pretty bad that you have to tear apart a brand new seat. So I use a flat screwdriver and we go underneath of the staple, just get it popped up a hair, and we use a pair of side cutters gently and pull out the staple. Put it off to the side. We're gonna do that. We're not gonna take the whole seat off. We're gonna try and see what we can do. The problem is the more it ripples when it gets installed, it pushes up, these get worse. So it doesn't get installed flat, but we need to try and push the material up and out of the way and staple it back down. Well guys, after a lot of on and off test fitting and a little bit of time, we got a lot of the wrinkle out. There's still a hair there. Maybe this material will shrink a hair. I do not like this seat. It looks good on the bike, like the color match is good. I needed a red seat for these graphics, but it's not really the quality we're after for our builds. We won't buy another one. So basically we got one last thing to do. Let's see if it'll fire up. Well, that's it for the 2004 CR250 build. We pretty much did everything on this bike other than the motor because it was already done. The bike's got a brand new clutch. We did the steering stem bearings. We've done so much, I'd have to go back and look at the video list and see what I all did. Wheel bearings, tires, you name it, we did it. Hopefully you guys liked the series and got to learn something along the way. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could like and subscribe to the channel. It actually does a lot. And leave a comment down below, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this graphics kit what you guys think about this seat. What do you guys think about the bike in general, or if you have any comments on stuff you guys have done, let me know. Let's talk dirt bikes. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Well, guys, if you stuck around for the whole video, I really appreciate it. And thanks a lot for watching. If there's any comments or questions you guys have about that build series or about the bike, leave a comment down below. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And we'll see you guys in the next one.